the same manner as private developments. I thank you.
Thank you, Baba and Masimula, on your presentation. As I've said, is that we are looking at all the range. We are looking at the continuum. He talks about 500 million plus. For some of us, we have that money in our bank accounts, but for some, we don't. Yeah, 500 million plus that we have. I think also what is also important is that what he has mentioned is that there are certain requirements in terms of investment. I think which as a government, I think he was stressing that as government we have a responsibility to ensure that all that we do it in accordance with the policies and laws of the country. For instance, he talks about EIA. EIA has to do with environment, which I think environmental management of the city as well as the country. Therefore, they're assisting as far as that. The traffic issue, because I think with development elaphana emtshepeni kwenza umgwaqo oseceleni ukuze ngabe khona itraffic. Sithi sideveloper kodwa uthola ukuthi inkinga bakhona umphakathi usuya sinqaphela ukuthi hey angisakwazi ukufika emsebenzini ngesikhathi ngenxa yaSpa noBoxer kanti uSpa noBoxer ukuthi uzosithuthukisa njengesizwe ngicabanga lokho kubalekile bese kuba issue yamanzi. I think amanzi abalekile kakhulu enye into leyo water usage. I think is very important. Lokho kubalekile ukuthi they carry you through abashongo ukuthi bakhombisa they carry you through, which I think is very important. And then must be issue eberezo undaba ezitha wesizwe sakandelo lento beneficiation, which I think is very important for communities that are where the development or investment is going to happen, because I think it's very critical for all of us as different communities to participate, and also not just in terms of jobs, but it's also in terms of ownership of some of the investment within those particular areas. And then he make mention of the areas where there has been investment or assistance that have been given. I think I would like to thank Ubaba Umasimula. I think without further ado, then maybe I will move to Ubaba Uvuyo Jaiya, who will take us through the agri plan, which I think is very important for us, because as we know that a certain area within our community it's an area that can be used for agricultural purposes, but to move beyond that in terms of subsistence and look at issues of how then can you add value in as far as that is concerned. Without further ado, Babu Joel.
Thank you, Chair. Namgi kollega kundaba ezitha. No DCM we cluster yethu, even our colleagues and all the delegates. Mine is a very short and straightforward one. Umasipala weTheku une agri-business master plan. It's a plan lana we are trying to promote production yokudla within eThekwini, because we are a vulnerable city when it comes to that. Most of umhlaba wethu we are building more houses and settlements, and there's less land for us ukuthi sidle as we go forward. So senze ucwaningo sabona ukuthi ziziphi izinto esingathi siyiproduce ngendlela elula within eThekwini, which will be easy to invest in and also to make a lot of money. And nezinto ezikhombisa ukuthi kune demand most people are consuming within the city. And then we came up with commodities out 5, where if you want to invest in agriculture eThekwini, vegetable production is a very good area to go into. I-value chain yayo yonke, from seedlings production to plowing in the field and then distributing such. The sheep production seemed also to make a lot of sense, especially in the western areas of the municipality. Mauyako, Pinetime, KwaXimba, Cato Ridge, because of climate. We also saw piggery is also a very good business to start. You can start it anywhere. It's intensive farming. You build the facility and you grow and fatten pigs within there. You can grow that anywhere in the city, and there's a big demand. We're the third biggest producer of pigs in the country, the whole of KZN. There's a new opportunity in cannabis as well. for medicinal purposes. We've got a lot of information to share on how to start, how to get a license. We can assist and walk people through that. And then the last one, it is poultry. We consume a lot of poultry every other day. Sidla inkukhu. All of this says that we need to attract you and ask you to invest R1 billion within the city over the next 10 years. If you invest your money within these sectors I spoke of, you definitely guaranteed to come right. Our office is armed with technical knowledge, guidance, and also we can link you to financial institution where additional capital is required. And just to go back where I should have started, at eThekwini we've got an economy of about 300 billion every year. There's 300 billion that gets spent here every year, whether you are part of it or you are watching it being spent. Agro processing, they spend, agro processing produces about 30 billion rands. Processed foods that we consume, we buy that. I'm part of that. Everyone here is part of that 30 billion rand, but that's what we consume here. And then primary agriculture, abalimayo, whether bayafuyile okanye bayalima, there's about a GDP of 3 billion rands. So I'm just trying to show you a scale, the opportunity in the economy that is there. Our office has got information, guidance. We are not selling any promises, we're selling tangible intelligence, which you can use as you want to invest your money. We can link with markets, we can help with all the compliance requirements that are there. But I think that's the vision of the municipality, to ask you and invite you as the investors, baseThekwini, in this journey of raising about this R1 billion and producing more food within the city and enjoying part of this 300 million economy which we produce every year. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Thank you for your chair. I think as investors, we see where we can put our money. The 5 commodities, they're clear. Everyone will know about it. We've always produced food, vegetables. We just need to upscale it. Maybe start from, I think as government, in terms of started with the 1 home, 1 garden. I think now we need to extend in terms of that. I think also the issue in terms of sheep production. I know isizwe kakhulu samaZulu sisebenzisa imbuzi. Kodwa I think njengamanje we have to transcend and move to sheep production, and maybe also talk to our higher up people to assist us in as far as that is concerned. And then also piggery, I think is very important. Yes, it looks a dirty thing. You know, when you look at it, we all eat, most of us, I don't say all, some of us, as a researcher, some of us, we eat bacon that come from piggery. You know, that's what is important. And cannabis, not for medicinal. Let me stress, for medicinal, not for other things. But anyway, that's for another day. And lastly, also poetry. I think we always woke up in our homes. We always had inkukhu running around. I think now we have to look at that for increase our production, so that at the end of the day, we are able to assist with that. 300 billion. 300 billion rand. It's up for take. 300 billion rand. It's up for take, colleagues. I think investors, I think we need to look at that. And then over and above that, as a municipality or as government, we are making information, the intelligence available. I think that's what is important for us. We need to be able to be knocking at Uvuyojaye's door and say, give us that intelligence, then we want you to take us through, and then we can be able to go up to 500 million plus, to go to catalytic as we move forward. I think that's thank you very much, Mr. Jaya, for your presentation. And I will ask Uwinile to take us through the tourism sector, especially in communities where we live. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Ngicela ukubingelela Nkosi. Protocol, DCM, and executive colleagues, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, ngiyanibingelela. Sibonge Program Director, I think cover 2 minutes. I'm just going to start by saying, CU Durban Tourism, our core mandate promoter idolopa to ama visitors ukuthi eze eThekwini azospenda imali eThekwini. So idolopa kulona idolopa ukuthi kuseThekwini kuphela, but rural and township. And we have actually over the years done a lot of activities and sawabona ama results. So ngizoqala la ekutheni iziphi izinto esizenzayo noma esizenzile and futhi esazozenza in terms of promoter township. Ngizoqala ekutheni si promoter indawo township ama experiences kuma visitors ukuthi eze township ukuthi kwenzakalani ngoba into ekhona ebalekile ukwazi ukuthi abantu abeza endaweni bezela into ehlukile from where they are coming from. So the uniqueness of a township offer or lifestyle is what they come for. So that is what is a competitive advantage for a destination. So sinabonanda heritage route, nagbo Hammersdale, nagbo Clermont, indawo ehlukahlukene ze heritage, ze lifestyle, so si promote lezo zinto. And this went through different mediums of specific focus marketing for townships, television, social media, print media, and global. And also in the sense that you events amakhulu, si tata ama business asema lokshini si wa link naloma events amakhulu. For example, recently for after COVID, sibene Africa Tourism Indaba, and si tate some businesses aya kuindaba apuma township ukuthi abe ne linkage with ama tour operators okuwabathengi be tourism. Exhibition center, and what we also we do so tata media nama operators, the buyers of tourism to the different experiences. So sabaleta bomlazi kuma experiences of tourism la enanda Inc area nabo Clermont nasa south, so that they then package and people they come to visit the area. Uma kunemicimbi emkhulu le leisure ayigcini only edropeni siye sibe nama pre-activations endaweni zama township, especially ama lounges, because kubalekile ukuthi si promote tourism products that are also compliant, so that it puts us in it protects our brand ngokwe compliance ngoba ama tourists afuna into compliant. So sileta lawo ma activities kuma lounges noma kubo artisans noma kubo maqaqa noma kubo magaba, and those places they get exposure as well and benefit from the mega event esuke yenzeka eThekwini. And then another thing esiyenzayo siba nama tour operators workshops. I've seen a few tour operators la endlini, and some people laba aspirishayo ukuba in the tourism sector ukuthi baba ma tour operators. Into esiyenzayo silinka ama local tour operators nama tour operators are national na international. Uguti, the local ones, abe ama ground handlers. Uguti, when the tour operators, they package a destination from ngaphandle, bakwazi uguti baxhumane nalaba aba local, so that makfika ama visitors, they hand over to them, and the local tour operators, they benefit from the transaction. So imali ayigcini only kumuntu ophuma ngaphandle or big, mhlambe Thompson's, a big tour operator, but it also remains with the tour operator la a local. Same thing nama tour guides. So e-tourism, it's at different levels, ama opportunities. It's informal as well as formal business. So taking like ama tour guides, because tour guides, they are also in the value chain. Ukuthi makufika these visitors, they become part of the transaction in benefiting. Bahambisa abantu benza ama tours or basebenza nama tour operators when they expose people to the different areas. And enye into esiyenzayo indaba ye tourism awareness, working with schools. Ngoba into ebalekile ukuthi tourism education or tourism knowledge economy, it becomes important for the youth as they leave school to understand what opportunities are there. Ungabi theoretic phela, but it also practical. So we take the young students and we link them with big business or already, corporate a business, so that they can share information to practicalize the theory like abayifundai. To get them ready as they preparing to exit a high school and go also to tertiary institutions. So just lastly, also what we do through different programs, we through for kune program enkulu ebizwa ngama Durban Tourism Business Awards. So Loma Awards, they were for recognizing businesses that have actually stood the test of time over the years, particularly during COVID. And we are excited ukuthi there were products that were from townships that were part of the tourism awards in terms of entering, they were finalists. From finalists, they became winners, including Lendawo Esiguyo Namhlanje. They were actually recognized as a winner in the Tourism Business Awards. So that is an indication ukuthi emalokishini, the businesses that are there, they are actually of world-class standard. So in terms of ukusebenzisana in communities, we work with organized organizations which we call community tourism organizations. Sina 9 of those across Itegu. Emalokishini, sinemlazi, a community tourism organization, take care from Lamonti down to the whole of Umlazi, and then bese sesibane Sapphire Coast, take care the Toti, but township and rural, ifika Gababa Nabumkomazi, Sine Inc. that takes care of the north, west, Clemonti. So in as far as the rural. So we encourage everybody who wants to actually start a business to also contact and access those community tourism organizations to be able to be part of many other programs. But Tinas Nama Office, our 9 as well, our 10 across the city, Lapo Kona disseminating information of support in terms of tourism support, in terms of opportunities that are there, marketing opportunities, and also profiler a business. And lastly, other opportunities, they talk to textile industry, whereby different people can formulate souvenirs. It could be craft, it could be items that promote Itegu. We take those, we have a shop at North Beach, which is called the Durban Shop at Daisa Lezo Zinto, to the tourists. But just when we go out, whether it's an international exhibition or a domestic exhibition, we take that shop and some businesses which are in the township and the rural with us to actually promote and expose themselves to the visitors outside of the city. So there's many different opportunities that we can explore, but we'll actually welcome questions in terms of opportunities that people see. But that is about it from the tourism sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Six Winila, about that a brief outline of what you do as a city. I think for investors in this house, I think it's important to note that people that come from outside, especially our foreign tourists, they like to have an experience that they have not had elsewhere. And then we have townships and rural areas. I think we need to also to look at that so that we are able to, when they come to eThekwini, they don't go to the seaside only. They also visit our township as well as our rural areas, which I think is very important. And also, we are happy to know that I think for colleagues that there's always a link between the events and businesses that are operating within the city, and then it gives us an opportunity for operators or people who own areas of interest within the city to be able also to participate, to be linked up with events that are happening in the city. And all the programs that I think colleagues Winnie has spoken about in terms of tour operators, as well as also the textile. I think it's very important. They are not left out. They also participate, especially as souvenirs for people that come and visit our city, and also they are taken on visit when Durban Tourism is on tour. Then they are able to take some of our colleagues, some of our businesses along, so that they are exposed to the international market. I think we have had all the presentation that you have received from starting with the deputy city manager, Undabe Zita, as well as colleagues from different units and departments within the city. I think now we are going to allow the colleagues from the floor to ask any questions I think we'll take possibly 2 rounds of questions. We'll allow people to raise their hand, and then we'll give them an opportunity to ask their question. And then those questions, I'll request our colleagues that are in front to note them. I'll also note them, and then we can respond to those questions. I think I will count. I have Ubaba 1, Mfwethu 2, Usesi 3, Usesi 4, 5, 6. Okay. Can I be assisted with the other mic?
Ngibingelele indlu ndaba ezitha kanye nawo wonke nje amakhosi akhona ne-leadership ekhona masipala. Siyayibonga i-platform esinikezwe yona. Igama lami ngubongani wakhathi from MIC Stores Trading and Project. Mhlawumbe ndaqala ncome la ukuthi ke mangilalela lento ekuthiwa ama-red tapes cha nikwazile impela kwanqamula nje. Okwenza ukuthi ke nama-investors agcine sebona ukuthi ama-opportunities akhona ngoba ezinye izinto lezi ezibalekisa ama-investors whereby you've got too much red tapes. As a result ugcina ngempela noyilokhuzana ne-invest ibaleka iphinde emuva nemali. So for that I salute you as umasipala waseThekwini. Ilokhuzana ngibuka ubudlelwano eninabo la nendaba ezitha emaqadini ukuthi nje cha buhle kakhulu and mhlawumbe kuzofuna ke siyiclarify leyo kulokhuza yokusebenzisana between amakhosi kanye namakhansela ngoba cha uyakuphakamisa undaba ezitha la iqaleni ukuthi ke uyacela impela nje ukuthi ke angeqiwa kodwa kungekukhulunywe nabantu ke nami ngokwazi kwami ngazi kanjalo ukuthi impela uqala emakhosini mawukuthi uzokhuluma indaba ephathelene nomhlaba kanye nesizwe sonke. Kodwa ke manje bese ukuthi ke usukwenzile lapha lo okuhle okufanele vele ukwenze uqale kundaba ezitha then lo ukhansela awusemuhle ke manje futhi kuyena. Usuphakathi nendawo ke manje ukuthi ngoba ubefuna yena kuqalwe kuyena abonakalise ukuthi necha yena uphethe yena ukhansela impela. Ugcina kayi manje into yakhona ngisho nasemkhandlwini whereby kune-sitting ifuna ke mhlambe approve agcine seyisabotage impela hayi bagudike lapha ekusabotageni izinto eziright. So bengocela nje ukuthi ke mhlambe ke leyo kweyilungiswe ithi mayilungiswa nawo amakhansela abe khona atshelwe ukuthi no as umkhandlu nayi directive esithatha ishuthi sifuna ukwenza into efana ne development endaweni ethinta amakhosi ukuze kungenzeki ukuthi enesigcina sesixabene. Okugcina ke ukuthi ke i development emayingena endaweni abantu abamnyama lento ye beneficiation impela loyithinta impela nje lawo umphathi uhlelo ngiyayithanda ngoba igcina ingaxoxwa kakhulu okugcina ukuthi egcina manje igcina isixabanisa especially umphakathi ugcina usuyivukela le nto ngoba manje awu understand ukuthi konje wona ubenefita kuphi. Mhlawumbe my suggestion kokunye masenihleli as ilokhu umasipala lapha ngoba I understand ukuthi kunemithetho yakhona but ke mhlawumbe kuzofuna nibepha because imithetho vele eminingi ayivelanga nje yaqhamuka kumasipala but yakhiwa abantu abasuke bekhethiwe bahlangana base bephuma abangakwazi futhi ukuthi ke mase behlangene futhi again bebona ukuthi ayibasebenzeli lemithetho bakwazi ukuyishintsha. So I'm suggesting ukuthi ke mhlambe kule into beneficiation. Besides lokho ke le percentage ke ezobiya ngapha lokuza esikhwameni sa ndaba ezitha nje lokho. I think na umphakathi ukuze ke uzoyi-owner i-development, whatever development, especially le yamalokuzane yenxaxheba yezitolo. Sizama ukuvikela nalento engaphinde yenzeke ya July unrest. Ukuthi ke manje asibenze manje nababo bayi-own ilokuzane development. Kanjani na? Kanjani na you create isikhwama esomphakathi ke manje. Leso sikhwama ke manje esizothi ke makuphela unyaka kukhona lento ekuthiwa ama dividends. Whereby umphakathi ke manje uzobe usunikezwa ke manje usucazelana lawo ma dividends. By so doing ngoba akona wonke umphakathi ozoqashwa la ukwazi ukusebenza. But whoever othene cha mina ngizingxenye yomphakathi uzokufila ngaphakathi kuyena ke manje uthene no I'm part and parcel yale development, so ufuna ke ngiyiprotecte ngayo yonke indlela ekufuna ngiyiprotecte ngayo. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.
Ngebingelele endlini yonke. Igama lami uSinenhlanhla Sibeko. I run an NPO called iSisigwa Foundation. iSisigwa, I do counseling and free counseling as well as women empowerment for all homeless women. My question is, I invest in people that want to invest in themselves. I'm not running a business, Mina, that gives me any revenue. I do it from the homeless people because ngifuna ukubibona abakwazi ukuthi khona umuntu that has their back so they can empower themselves. Councillor Sabelo spoke about why do we have youth on randomly on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. They obviously are into drugs, alcohol and prostitution. Not everybody ohlala emgaqweni is a drug addict. Not everybody who is homeless, especially the women that I deal with, are subjected to iwunga and things like that. There are those who have serious home problems that have rather seen it as a better decision to move away from home and indulge themselves in sex work because ekaya isimo sibi kakhulu. How do you assist those people that are serious about ukuthi impilo iqhubeke, that want to better their lives but don't have that training platform or a place or a space whereby they can go and empower themselves simply because they are not taken seriously or given a chance because we have the mentality or this idea that ngoba uhlala emgaqweni you are not talented, what you are is ipar. And another thing that I'd just like to add is that in prisons, abantu bayakwazi ukuhlala ejele, bayakwazi ukuthi bafundiswe and things like that. Why can't we engage with the homeless people that are serious about changing their lives and are serious about changing situation yabo ukuthi nabo bakwazi ukuthi ba-empowerisheke? By the times these malls open, noma iy'tolo lezi kaMashu, there's iy'tolo lezi zivulwe eNanda, that 30% of those men or those women that live on the street are already empowered and trained to be cashier or trained to be abantu abazokwazi ukukhuwa amatroli or trained to be whatever it is la bengakwazi ukungena khona, instead of us having this judgmental personality of ukuthi abantu sibabuka phansi. If it can happen in prisons with criminals, why can't it happen with innocent people or innocent women rather living on the streets that are really experiencing serious problems? And talking lastly about township development, ibona impela abantu abadingakalayo laba simply because they are from the townships. Ukhona uMashu, ukhona uNanda, ukhona uMlazi. So nanokuthi sikwazi ukuthi mase sibayise emakubo through whatever rehabilitation program that we can provide for them. Mase besefikile ekhaya kuthiwa siyabonga masipala nikwazile ukushintsha abantwana bethu nabalethe emgaqweni. I've been running this project for over 2 years and umasipala ukwazi ungisize ngalutho. I've always been sent from pillar to post kuthiwa yakasafe cities yala. But because of the passion that I have for these women, I actually won the Gagasi FM Shira Award 2022 in community leadership. So ngicela sikwazi ukuthi we don't need to be judgmental. as a black woman over the age of 35, angisebenzi, unemployed, but if these women need a shoulder to cry on, ngikhona. If these women need umuntu abazokhuluma naye, ngikhona. If they need a hug, I'm there. So can we please just have a different look or a different view of abantu aba homeless, and not all of them are into iwunga and things like that. Bakhona laba abadinga usizo, but they don't know which door to knock on. Ngiyabonga.
Ngibonge ngibingelela amakhosi na zonke ithunywa ekhona la endlini. Igama lami ngumlungisi ngwakamdlalo sisibongo. Into engifuna ukuyithola kuqala kule yamathuba akhona ukuthi ngabe zonke inkampani isuke ezinamathuba angakanani ukuthi ikwazi ukubenefita njenge development ekade khulunywa ngayo yasemjebheni, i-development yasentuzuma neyase-Brit City. Ngeke na uvimbeke kuthiwa nomlungisi obelongi kwi-forum noma kwi-business sector ethize. Then bese ngifuna ukuthola okunye ukuthi kusuke kuvuleleke kangakanani ukubenefita kwabantu abaphila nokukhubazeka kuwona le ma-developments wona esikhuluma ngawo noma azoqhamuka. Bese kuba enye i-issue eyangithinta njengomuntu wesilisa, ikhulunywe ubaba ukhansela uSabela uThando Xolo, ile akhulume as if noma umasipala weTheku uthanda ukuxoxisa kancane uxhaso noma usizo labantu besilisa. Abantu besilisa nabakudinga ukuba sebhizinisini, more especially kune category la umuntu wesilisa osabelong kwi-youth. Kumele wenzani? Kumele ngabe uyothatha isibhamu ubambe inkunzi noma because kusumele uprovide for umndeni wakho. So if umuntu ezokhulumela umkhandlu akhulume regular iposition kamasipala yini kuloko ukuthi kune sector noma kunohlobo labantu engamele banakekelwe kakhulu. Then bese ngiya kule ndaba ezisaqade, angazi ngizocela ukulima lolu hlobo lwesitshalo ekuthiwa sikuhlaza endaweni yakho. Mhlambe engifisa ukuthola kukona ukulima i-cannabis ukuthi mhlambe lungakanani uxhaso umuntu angalithola. Then bese kuba ile yenkukhu. Umasipala ngifisa ukwazi ukuthi ngabe uxhasa ngeinkukhu zemshini kuphela na, ngoba njengoba ngiyiqadi nje ngiyazi nenkinga eziningi emaqadini, abantu bayayidinga neinkukhu ezimnyama. So ngifisa ukwazi ukuthi ngabe kuyaxhaswa nani, ngabe kuyaxhaswa nani inkukhu lezi zokuphila. Ngibonge.
Sanibonani konke umuntu osendlini. Igama lami Octavia Dlamini. I just want to ask a question regarding into yomhlaba, especially in the rural areas. When you find an opportunity to build a business within the rural areas, I understand ukuthi khona izinto ezifana njengoma PTO instead of a title deed that you get from inkosini when you usubekiwe emhlabeni lo osukuthengile. The only issue esihambisana nayo ukuthi the first issue that we have as small businesses is of course funding. So when you go and approach the big banks regarding trying to build an infrastructure within the rural areas, we are told that, of course, because of the PTO, that is not your land, it's still under Inkosi. Therefore, we are not giving that funding that we are expected. So where do we go from there? Ukuze sithole leyo loans, uqala senze imisebenzi. Because siyachitha emabhenki amakhulu. The second question is that as abantu besifazane, we have had an issue engangahlangabezana nayo. Uthola iland oyithandayo, ngatshela ukuthi ngoba ngumuntu wesifazane ngeke ngikwazi ukuyithola leyo land, especially ngoba ngishadile. That leyo inkosi yangaleyo ndawo yathiwa abantu abangashada abantu besifazane abakwazi ukubekwa. So ezinye izinto engicela ukuthi mhlawumbe sikwazi ukuthi sithinte okuphenduleka kuzona. Ngiyabonga.
ngizocela ukuthi badlule DCM because ngibuyi panel.
Thathele thuba ngibingelele inkosi uShinga usihlalo abaholi bendabuko kwaZulu bingelele Ndabezitha qade elikhulu ngibingelele uzakwethu osomabhizinisi abakhona endlini phinde ngibingelele abaholi bomkhandlu weTheku bingelele nosodolobha engasekho la kuthina okwanamhlanje. I am part of the investment community in KZN or eThekwini. There's in terms of investor services, this is the question I have. Uma ubuka indawo lezi ezingaphansi kwamakhosi. You go, you identify the site. From day one, you have to spend money. Uyahamba uyobona induna, usuke enduneni, induna iyokuwethula enkosini. By that time, feasibility of that site awakayi clearish. You just need access ukuze ukwazi ukusebenzisa leyo site. So by that time awakakhulumi nomasipala okumele ukunikeze in terms of clearance, in terms of EIA, nama traffic impact assessments. Ngicela ukubuza ukuthi kuma investor services ikhona yini under Invest Durban where mangibona okay na isite potential ikhona ngicela ukufonela investor services in terms of your corridor development plan ngithola umuntu ozofika ayibuka athi no we think you could do this XY service. Mhlambe this is more of ama precinct plans for ama corridor areas. Before you then invest goma EIAs and so on. That's always the problem in trying to get investment through in these areas. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you, participants. I think we'll have to allow. Can I then arrange the responses? I'll start with Undabezit. I think there were two questions that were raised in terms of land tenure issue, as well as also the access by single women to land in Damakos, Ndabezit.
Ngibonge kakhulu umuntu usukanikeza 2 minutes kuphela ngalesi sikhathi wangakwazi ukuchaza kahle ngokwanele but access to land in a process eyenzekayo ngoba uqala ukukhuluma ne traditional council then bese manivumelana nayo you get into an agreement with the ITB ngoba siyazi ukuthi wonke umhlaba wamakhosi usengaphansi kwengonyama transport. Not all of the land but some of the land is ingaphansi kwengonyama transport. Ufa kuyilo umhlaba njengalowo kuba khona ke form oyisayinayo to ITB2 form oyisayinayo ezokwazi ukuthi ikhiphele i99 year lease nengonyama transport not PTO ayisekho into ePTO sekuyi 99 year lease manje sekuyona esebenzayo. When it comes to this residential site to a single woman, maybe it's a dependa endaweni zamakhosi, but not all of indawo zethu are treating abantu besifazane in that way, because the matured woman osenabantwana lo muntu lo uzomlahlaphi kusuke kufanele kukhulunywe lapho makhona icase njengaleyo nje siyayisithanda ukuthi attend impela kuba sithi lo muntu uzohlalaphi kuba nasekhaya sekufanele ngabe usephumile manje ngabe senendawo yakhe lapho ezokhululeka khona. So kuyishwa ukuthi kube khona isimo esinjengaleso, but siyesizama ukuthi sisi-address naleyo traditional council ethintekayo. I-access to i-finance, it depends kuma banking institutions. Akhona finance ayo endaweni zasemakhaya. I don't want to mention lawo ma institutions obakuzoba ngathi ngiyawadayisa, but some of them are hesitant ukuthi asinikeze i-locoza i-finance because we don't have a collateral njengase indawo zasemadolobheni. But mangasho nje ithala liyakwazi ukuthi lifinance indawo zasemakhaya. You can do business nalo ithala. Mhlambe ke nayo FNB is coming on board. We hope nayo khona umfowethu besikhuluma naye la ethi banayo i-funding yokuthi bakwazi ukuzodevelop. We hope nabo bazokwazi ukuthi bagcine bengenile. Ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga ndaba ezitha. Eminye imibuzo ngizocela ukuthi ngiyithathe ngiyise ku deputy city manager. I think eminye imibuzo ngoba idinga umuntu vele owe strategic position within the city. I-issue le eraisiwe ehlangana namakhansela. I think ubaba ubephakamisa laphana ubaba Khathi ukuthi lento oqala phinde uqale namakhansela mhlambe ke angakwazi mhlawumbe uDCM ukuthi asiphendulele kulokho. Nasodabeni lolu oluhlanganisa ilento uyi-beneficiation kuma development enzekayo endaweni kakhulukazi ukwamenshona indawo efana nomtshebheni. Ngicabanga ukuthi ene uzobe siyasithathelela uDCM.
No, angibonge. Ngeke ngikwazi ukuphawula ngamakhansela namakhosi ngobudlelwano phakathi kwabo ngoba sinalo i-office eliphathelene nokusebenza phakathi kwamakhosi namakhansela likhona emkhandlweni. I think ikwa governance ngaphansi kuka deputy city manager ucele ngiyashwa kasimemanga ukuthi abela engicabanga ukuthi esikhathini esizayo kufanele ukuthi abe khona ngoba sikhuluma nge-rural economy. Siyayazi ukuthi ilalela kakhulu emhlabeni wamakhosi yona. Kusho kube yiphutha ngasesayidini lethu ukuthi singameme uNdosi njengo deputy city manager obhena lokho. Kodwa engakusho ukuthi umkhandlu unayo isakhiwo samakhosi ngaphansi kwedolobha laseThekwini. Ngicabanga ukuthi lelo phuzu lelo sizodlulisela kubaba uNdosi ukuthi akwazi ukulifaka lapha emkhandlwini lo wamakhosi kanye nomkhandlu wamakhansela. Uze babone ukuthi I'm sure ikhona icode abayisebenzisayo yokusebenzisana. Ngizothi sibonakaliso nje sike saya kwenza iproject la eShongweni laphana kunenkosi thina saqala ngosabiza amakhansela nenkosi asiyibizile angafika emhlanganweni ngoba iproject la kuzokwenza khona iproject akona umhlaba wenkosi loyana umhlaba wakaThonga Thulet oswadayiselwa ideveloper kodwa ngoba umhlaba waHulet odayisela ideveloper odwa usendaweni yasemakhaya so kushuthi inkosi inalizwe ngabantu bayo abalapha endaweni not ngomhlaba. So amakhansela said before siqhubeka kakhulu asiyeni ukubona inkosi saya ke ukubona inkosi kushuthi ngizama ukuveza ukuthi amanye amakhansela ayazi ukuthi kuyafunela ngathi waqala ubona inkosi eqala sizwa ukubona inkosi aphinda athi futhi siyiphathele but ke wakuphasi iphathele isipho. Okay. Yeah, so kushifa siphathele isipho njengomkhandlu wedolobha. Asinawo ke umthetho ocacile lapho ukuthi mangiyobona inkosi yamaqadi faka ngiyiphathele isipho. Kodwa ke i-developer iyabe isi understand lokho yabe isikwenza ukuthi kwazi ukwenzeka. Ngizama ukuveza njalo ukuthi inhlonipho phakathi kwekhansela nenkosi kule ndawo engishoyo inkulu kangakanani uma bekhansela ezokwazi ukukhulumela inkosi engekho ukuthi uma ne serious ngomhlangano kufanele nifike nilungiselele kanjani inkosi abiza umhlangano ngeweekend womphakathi yaba khona umphakathi wachazelwa ngentuthuko intuthuko ngicathi iqalile manje so kusho ukuthi ukusebenzisana okukhona ke lapha kunamakhansela amabili lapha womabili futhi ayevumelana ngalokho kodwa awafani ngeke ngithi wonke amakhansela nje be more than 200 eThekwini namakhosi nje ba emaningi ngaphansi kwedolobha laseThekwini basebenzisana kanjalo sizokudlulisela ke kubaba uNdosi ukuthi bakubheke ukuze isikhathi nezayo sikwazi ukucacise kahle okunye khona de kusho usisi lapha okuhambisana nezindaba zokuthi le nditholwa abantu abanjani abantu besifazane mhlambe abangashadile bona abakwazi ukuyithola indaba ezithu ichazile olunye udaba lolo esizolithatha siyolifaka kubaba uNdosi ukuze balifake mabekhuluma emhlanganweni wamakhosi ukuze kube clear ukuthi kwenzakalani ngalokho ngoba ngaphandle kokuhlala sisi ngiyacabanga mhlawumbe ufuna ukuthi uke umuntu esifazana awushadile kodwa namabhillion zo investor awufuneke manje uwakho umuzi ufanele kube clear lapho ukuthi oyi investor wenziwa kanjani ungashadile noma naye akavumelekile kuleyo nkosi noma osiwezakhela umuzi wakhe ongavumelekile udaba oluthanda ukuthi libe sensitive ingakho ngithi fanele liluye emhlanganweni lixoxe kahle ukuze kukwazi ukuthi esikhathini esizayo sikwazi ukuliphendula kahle bese kuba udaba lapha nade liphakanyiswa ulithinta abantu yokuthi ama department ngicabanga ukuthi bakhona bakwa Invest Durban bazwile into abafaye bayiconsider leyo ukuthi bangakwazi ukuyenza nje badweyisho bese olunye udaba ngicashe udaba kade lithinta abantu besifazane ngicacisile kuba udaba oluthinta umfowethu lapha nobekhalela ukuthi abantu besilisa babuka ngathi sebesheka ngaphandle ngoba nokhansela usabelo uthe ukhuluma ebudedengu ngokusho kwakhe ubhuti uthe ukhansela usabelo ukhuluma ebudedengu la washiya abantu besilisa ngaphandle waphusha abesifazane kakhulu no inqubo nje kahulumeni kazwelonke iyakubeka vele lokho kusemthethweni kufanele babhekeleleke abantu besifazane ngoba kade bengabhekelelanga before isikhathi apartheid even namanje isikhathi se democracy abanakho ukuthi babhekeleke kahle so ubekubeka kahle usabelo akukona ukuthi mhlambe ubekubeka budedengu umthetho nje umi kanjalo kodwa ke lo mthetho kodwa awusho futhi ukuthi abantu besilisa bangalithola ithuba awusho inhlobo kanjalo uma umuntu wesifazane ngizolinganisa ngokomsebenzi maqasho ngiyeke lokho kwasebhizinisini ngoba ebhizinisini noma ungathanda ukwenza ngabe ngenzeki ngoba ngeke ukuthi uba unemali ngaleso sikhathi uma ufuna ukuvula ibhizinisi kodwa emsebenzini nje njengamasipala amaqashwa kufanele kube u50-50 kuma department kubantu besifazane nabesilisa kona wonke ama position kodwa kusaqhubeka ukuthi abantu besilisa babe baningi nabantu besifazane kweminye imisebenzi ngenxa ukuthi osesikhathi umuntu wesifazane osewe qualify kahle uvela ngatholakala noma sekwehliswe ama grade noma experience so that ezokwazi ukutholakala kodwa umasipala uyazama yonke indlela ukuthi akwazi ukubafaka kodwa akabafaki kwe-expense yomuntu wesilisa ukuthi umuntu wesilisa uyacindezela usukelwa kakhulu no50-50 kodwa kuyenzeka ukuthi nje egcineni futhi ebuye kwangena yena umuntu wesilisa so akakona ukuthi mhlambe ngoba ade ekhuluma ebudedengu kodwa bezama ukugcizelela imizamo ezizama ukuyenza ukuthuthukisa abantu besifazane ekutheni bakwazi ukungena ngokwamathuba emsebenzi kahulumeni bese singena emathubeni ke emsebenzi le besikhuluma ngayo nje badulinganisa komtshebheni nako yonke indawo lapho ke i-private sector so asikwazi ukutshena uboxer ukuthi aqashana besifazana une system yakhe uboxer noma uSpa noma uHilton Hotel noma uOctavia Hotel nje basile bane system yabo ukubona baqasha kanjani emsebenzini angeke saba dictatele ukuthi fanele singenza nje iziphakamiso zokuthi njoba sinikeza not ilungelo njoba sinisupporta kangaka kwintuthuko yenu singathanda maseniqasha nikubheke lokhu nalokhu nalokhu sesisho nathi oba siyabasiza then ke bese beyabona ukuthi bayakwazi ukwenza lokho bakwenza isikhathi esiningi bayakwenza ababi nayo inkinga yokuthi bakwenze angikhumbuli siba nenkinga mabe senze iphakamise njalo so ama project amaningi engikwaziyo lawa ade ewabala uPeter abantu abaningi abaqashiwe lapha nabantu besimame abaqashwa khona bese siza kuyithuba lebusiness kuyithuba lebusiness so abantu besimama abaningi abaqashiwe sengikhohle ukuthi umbuzo wakho ubulwa nokuthi amadoda wangeni abantu besimama abaqashwa kulama project ade ngikhuluma ngawo kodwa nabesilisa bakhona kuya ngohlobo lomsebenzi mhlawumbe uzongena ngaphathi supermarket baningi abesimame kodwa uzongena kwenza ukwakha umgwaqo ngibewa ngamapiki mhlawumbe baningi abesilisa kodwa iproject yonke egcineni igcina izamile ukuthi ibalances into le esazothatha isikhathi kodwa I'm here to see a project like khona amadoda asale in numbers asala abamaningi ekhishwa abantu besifazane uqashwa asaqhubeka nokuthola umsebenzi bese ngiya la emathubeni amabhizinisi nakhona ngokomkhandlo uthola ama points uma umuntu wesifazane kodwa uma uthi yenza ithuba lebusiness nomunye usomabhizinisi into enayibukayo mhlambe yena ubheka iexperience ukuthi uzokwazi ukuyenza lonto mhlambe uthatha more wabantu besilisa right into kusafana leyo ibisiyabhekelela and then okugcina kulembuzo kade uyibuza ukuthi mhlambe kwenzeka kanjani ukuthi mhlambe ningakwazi ukuthi ningene noma ingabe ingaluphi uhlobo kulama project owabalile ngicabanga ukuthi kulawa thinta into zuma umtshebheni bakhona abafowethu basazozala istage abanikazi la kusakhuluma uhulumeni kusazongena abantu abama investor manje ukuyibona abaphethe lama projects amakhulu besikhuluma ngawo ozothi umuntu nombuzo ukwazi ucha uyena lo mama noma iyona le ndoda efake le mali lapha uma iphendula ngento yayo ke manje bese kuba ukutshala lokade ukukhuluma ngeke ngikhulumele amakhosi mhlawumbe amanye amakhosi awafisi ukutshala insangu endaweni zawo I don't know but ukhona uvuyo lokade ekhuluma la uJahiya uku-assista noku-advisa ekuthenini lelo business liranwa kanjani nokuthi ungena kanjani kulona kodwa ngokuthi angithandi nami bese ngihamba la sengixabene namakhosi ukuthi ngithe hayi ukutshalwa noma yikephi nasey'ndaweni zawo mhlawumbe ngenzeka ukuthi abanye abathandi bazobeka izathu zabo khumbula futhi lo mhlaba wenkosi usazohamba uyokwenza le nto ade show indaba ezitha ilease mhlawumbe ngesikhathi elise uzothi no lento ozoyenza la mhlawumbe izombulalela isizwe sami mhlawumbe uthi wena no izolapha isizwe ngeke isibulale isizwe angithandi ukungena lapho kakhulu mhlawumbe lokugcina ngaphambi ukuthi mhlawumbe singadedela abanye abafowethu nabo babeke elokuthi uma kuzolandwa ama investors ezofika eindaweni ngifuna ukclarify lento yokuthi abantu abanikwe ama percentage ukuthi mhlawumbe ke ngibuze ukuthi banikwe kanjani ngoba inkinga ifika ibe lapho uthi sengifikile manje ngiyiHilton Hotel ngizokwakha enana ngizokwakha ihotel ngizolakha ngo100 million uthi wena abantu bendawo abanikezwe percentage so mhlawumbe uthi 10% ngezindlela uthi mina ngineza abantu bendawo 10 million angihambe ngiyofuna 100 million bese ngibanika u10 million bangene mahala noma uthi angibalekelela ukuthi bathole iloan yalo 10 million ngoba ifiki abantu bathi bafuna amathuba bafuna ukungena leyo part le ngicabanga ukuthi afanele siyiclarify kahle sibe neunderstanding eclear ukuthi sikhuluma ngani ngoba yenye into eyenza ukuthi amanye ama investors athi angizukuya elokishini ngoba bazofuna ukungena bengakhokhile kanti mina ngihambe ngawufuna imali ngotsheleka imali okugcina uma ngena kumlungu asithi bekuyi Octavia angazi umnazo Octavia wayakha kanjani Octavia ukuthi mhlamba ayiqala izophela mhlamba ingamiswanga abantu bomakhelwane la bengafunanga ipercentage angazi uma uyi-own 100% kodwa ke sithi mhlambe ubesathi uyayiqala bese kusuka abantu bendawo bethi uzowakha ihotel ingane zethu ifuna i-percentage. Ebe umuntu omnyama ke wasendaweni ehamba ufuna u50 million wakhe ihotela lakhe. Bese uthi akabanike u5 million abantu bendawo. I don't know. So ezinye izinto lezo fanele ukuthi sizibheke. Kodwa akakhona amanye ama developers afika esekuhlelile ukuthi mhlambe endaweni zamakhosi bazokwenza kanjani ukubabhekelela abantu bakulezo indawo ngepercentage including mhlambe ne-tribal authority. Akhona amanye ama project esebenza kanjalo kona. Kuyenzeka futhi ukuthi mhlawumbe kufika kuzokwakhiwa i-mall, ngiyalinganisa nge-mall, izoshaya amabhizinisi amaningi endaweni amancane ade ekhona. Bese kuthiwa labo bantu abalapho abenze i-consortium of some sort bese bethola ukuthi bazoba ne-percentage kwi-mall ngoba vele izobalimaza. Lapho awungeni mahala, ungena ngokuthi vele ibhizinisi lakho lizobulawela ibhizinisi elisha. So le mali ozoyiluza umnikazi webhizinisi elisha usethi uzonifana ibe ingxenye ithole niba ama-shareholders nani kulento abavele ngase kwenzeka ilimaza ibhizinisi leni. So ke ingakho sengithi mhlawumbe ngiyicacise leyo nto leyo ukuthi siqhubeka nama-investors asezi stage mhlawumbe izogcina icacile by the time kuphela lo mhlangano. Ngicabanga ukuthi ngakhavile iningi lawo ama-questions sengoba asele amanye ungawabheka lapho siphe ukuthi map ozawuthi bawathathe. Khona lika sisi le ade khuluma khona ngabantu aba-homeless abahlala endaweni ezihlukahlukene bakhona semalokishini abantu aba-homeless ababi sedrobheni kuphela. Njengo-economic development asinayo i-program thina target abantu aba-homeless ukuthi sibafaka kanjani kwi-development mhlawumbe njengokuthi basebenze noma kwenzeke noma yini. Okay, ngikhuluma njengo-economic development. Kodwa umasipala unawo ama-programs abantu aba-homeless. Enye ama-department iyo laba bekuthumela kuyona ukuthi awuyitholi u-Safer Cities. Okay, kodwa ke mhlawumbe uba ulana ke mhlawumbe sesozama ukuthi kuxhume no-Safer Cities. Siyobona ukuthi ukukhuluma nibekana nifika no-Safer Cities. Kodwa umphako mina enguthathayo ukuthi mhlawumbe kuma-developments masiqhubeka esikhathini esizayo sibone ukuthi abantu aba-homeless ngala kwakhiwa ngakhona bangakwazi yini ukuthi abanye babo bakwazi ukuthi babhekeleleke. Kodwa ke inselelo esiba khona kwena ukuthi awukwazi usubhekelelekile ususebenza sohola ngenyanga lo mali oyiholayo siphinde futhi sikuthole futhi usengaphansi kavrandi ngoba phela usuyasebenza manje. So ngiyacabanga ukuthi mhlambe ileyo nto fanele sikhulume si-advisor ukuthi singenza kanjani. It's possible ukuthi kuma development abantu aba-homeless babhekele ngoba vele inhloso vele ukwenza amathuba emisebenzi nokuqeda izimo lezi zisuke ezingezinhle. Kodwa mhlawumbe oza ukuthi abanye abakhona bangayiphendula into yabantu aba-homeless.
Siyabonga Deputy City Manager Mondisi. Ngicabanga ukuthi all ama-question ade buziwa akwazile ukuphenduleka. Ngicabanga ukuthi ngizonikeza ithuba mhlawumbe undaba ezithe ngakhona afuna ukugcwalisa. Emva kalokho ngicabanga ngizobe sengicela ukunikeza mhlawumbe uPeter Gilmore on the issue yama-investor services abawa-providayo. Ngicathi lona phuzu elingakhavekanga kuphela lelo bese-ke mhlawumbe-ke ngizobe sengicela ukuthi siqhubekele phambili.
Cha kuncane nje umuntu abefisa ukuthi acacise kancane kona. Deputy usengikhavile kuloko kwe-beneficiation ukuthi umphakathi wona ma-contents ngayo kufanele kwenzeke kanjani i-development eyenzekayo lapho. Kuthi kona kuyafuneka ukuthi kuhlalwe phansi kuxoxwe kuboniswane lapho ngoba ngeke kuze kufane konke. Kodwa kuyafuneka ukuthi formalize-ke ngandlela yathile ukuthi ngelinye ilanga kungabi khona umuntu ozokwenza ngendlela afisa ngayo mhlawumbe ihlukile nakwabanye nezocindezela abanye. Bengiza kulena-ke uDeputy kade ekhuluma ngayo ye-cannabis. Ukuthi indawo zamakhosi mhlawumbe ezinye ayikavumeleki. Umuntu akakuvezi nje bakwethu ukuthi abantu bakithi bacindezeleka kakhulu esikhathini esingaphambili. beboshelwa ukudayisa umthunzi weinkukhu. Siyazi bekhona indawo nje ezinye ezikhona la eduze kuthiwe koBhambayi la eNanda la kwakuthiwa nje hayi ikubo kwayo impela umthunzi weinkukhu. Kungani ke manje nakuzothi abantu bakithi sekuvula sekunethuba elivulelekile bese siyabancisha lawo mathuba lawo. Kumanje nje izolo ngoba kunomhlangano wendla yabaholi bomdabu ihlangene lapha eThekwini ngiphume nje khona kumanje izolo besikhuluma ngendaba yebill yayi cannabis. Sishiyileke emakhosini ukuthi ababeyikhuluma kodwa nje sizimisele ngayo yonke indlela ukuthi enye into lezo boost economy yethu emakhaya. Amakhosi mhlawumbe ngaba nenkinga ngabe kushuthi angazi ukuthi kanjani lawo makhosi ngoba phela ilona thuba ke lelo ukuthi labo mama labo bantu ade bekhulisa imindeni yabo beyidayisa futhi befihlile beboshwa abanye bakhule ngayo baye ezikoleni ngayo. So sizobacabangela kanjani sothi sibacabangela kanjani abantu bethu masobancisha ilungelo selikhona. Lena njengakithi asephumile ama permit amanye ehempe endaweni yami nasekhaya bakhona bayi-applyele ihemp. Angithi khona kuhlukene ihemp necannabis. I-cannabis kuyona ke lesithi ke mhlambe ke abahlonishwa kusazofanele basikhulekela ukuthi ayingabi seyibanzima kangaka ukuthi itholakala ilicense yakhona. Ngoba iyona le usabona ukuthi kuseyabathile laba bona ade bengaboshwa futhi phambili engeke ngibabize ngamagama ngoba banemali bakwazi ukuthi ba-comply ngayo yonke indlela. Bakwazi ukuyithola kalula ke lawo ma license e-cannabis kanti iyona ongathi inenzuzo enkulu kakhulu. Nokuthi kumuntu akukhuthaze mhlawumbe ukuthi kumasipala wethu nayo ihemp leyo nayo i-cannabis ama production processes ayo ukuthi igcina itholakele seyisesimweni sokuthi ingasebenza kwenzeke ngaphakathi kungabe ukuthi iyahamba futhi hanjisa iproduct iyobuya seyi-end use product la seyizosetshenziswa yithi sikuvimbe lokho kube yithi esekuyi-processing sazi ukuthi isebenza siyitshala thina futhi yakhiwa yithi ukuthi isebenze siyidayise sesiyidayisa ngoba seyi-chemical noma seyilo into leyo kufanele kube yiyo singayenzi lento eyenzi kwayo ukuthi sithi sinedayimani elingaka kodwa iringi ngeke uzuyithola eSouth Africa iyoqala ihambe iringi uyithenga seyibuya phesheya kodwa iphume la ekhaya. Ngiyabonga.
Indaba ezethu siyabonga kakhulu. Kuba khona namhlanje kulo mhlangano esinawo ngizocela ukuthi ngibonge kakhulu ithuba enginikeziwe lokuthi ngibe uprogram director. Ithuba engandele umuntu ngibe uprogram director. Ngizocela ukuqala ngibonge uNdaba Ezitha inkosi yaKandelo ukuthi ene ikwazi ukusihlonipha njengoba deshilo ukuthi ene sibe sesemthathela phezulu. Sithanda ukubonga kakhulu Ndaba Ezitha ukusihlonipha kwakho nokuthi usi-address imibuzo ebikhona. I think it will kubalekela kakhulu ukuthi ube khona. Ngibonge ku Deputy City Manager ubaba uMondisi ngokuthi abe ingxenye yale panel. Ngibonge koza kwethu ama Deputy Head uVuyo noWinile ngokusiza ngokuthi ababe phambili basichazele. Program Manager wethu laphana uMasimula siyambonga naye Catalytic Project 500 million plus siyabonga kakhulu. Sibonge ku Peter Gilmore for assisting us in terms of the project that we had. I think because of time factor, because we would like to allow now the investors to be part of the panel, I think I would like to end this session and then call upon Baba.
Ngiyabonga. Ngiyabingelela sanibonani nonke bawethu. Good day. Ambingelelo ndaba ezitha ambingelele nezinsizwa nezintokazi lapha naphambili ngizoba mfishane nje. Ngiyaxolisa sihlalo bengicela ukuthi uzothatha i-second round as you promised. So angithi khona umbuzo wodwa nje engibona sengathi we are not coming out clearly now. Ngiyawuthanda lona ngoba it affects us thina as black people, especially because we are excluded from this lucrative sector of property. I-idea kahulumeni when it comes to indaba yani beneficiation and ownership, especially those who wants to invest in our townships or rural areas, at least is to enhance the beneficiation as well as ownership. And ngiyafuna to masipala because masipala, I know masipala wethu is that benza kahle kakhulu fanti ngiyancoma DSM kakhulu kabi. Kodwa I think nina leverage ukuthi nisize laba bantu abasuke bengingena ema township angithi abona belethe ama projects, catalytic projects as well as shopping malls ukuthi niba force ukuthi noma kanjani banike abantu local people angithi abona a higher percentage. Ngoba wonke lama shopping malls including catalytic projects angena kuma areas abantu abamnyama aba benefit abantu abamnyama. They are not benefiting at all. In fact, with the perpetuation of people or big business, I know that our representative, I know that we are growth coalition, but I'm talking, from the point of which the majority of the people, they are not the owners of a property in South Africa. And without land, without property, we are nothing. Because even in the city of Durban, we don't own all those buildings. All that I'm saying, Guti, I suggest we are here to find solutions. I was thinking, Guti, leli banga sengilihambile mbona ukuthi ayikho indlela ngoba ngiyayazi lensizwa wathi ipresenter lapha na umngani wami lapha uMasemola lapha planning. Ayikho indlela ukuthi laba abantu abasuke bengaphansi kwetheku DCM bethi bafulethi project, whatever project, ukuthi ngoba ama plan abo azo approve yinina verse in any way. Ngalesikhathi before ama plans are approved, nibuze ukuthi what is there for the people of the local, what is there for the local people. I think I'm trying to find out leverage, how to leverage the maximum shareholding or beneficiation for the people or the local people. That's what I'm trying to get, because the government of the day they are trying to empower black people so that they become owners of property in South Africa, because they are not owners of property in South Africa. I think that's where I know that this is the philosophy of the government. That's why if you get the farm, Mkamga show me, Sinali Plaza, about 1,000 hectares. We are 26 families. Some of those families, they want money, they want to sell that farm. It's a very good farm with high yield, it's a sugarcane farm. But Hulman, no, you can't sell, because all along you waited for so many years to get this farm. So ingakho ngisho uthi ngiyacela ukuthi nikhulume lento DSM ukuthi ayikho indlela ukuthi umasipala ngoba niyasiza to facilitate ukuthi kube khona indlela ukuthi to force those investors who are coming to the township at least not to displace any local business. I'm talking from a business point of view. I know ukuthi is job creation. No, it's not about job creation, Bawethu. It's about entrepreneurship at the same time. Ngoba if there are more people who have businesses in the township, it means that there's an increased economic activity. Increased economic activity means that there's job creation in return. But economic activity is caused by entrepreneurship. Small business are the engine of the economy. Let us try by all means uthi bapemene shareholding kwamnyandu, what we call it a key rate. I don't know even as a key rate how many percentage bazoyithola kulo project. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be 3% or 5%, and perhaps the elite, not the majority of the people. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Baba, for that. I'm not sure whether the DCM wants to say anything before I propose.
No, salbong iphuzulu kababa. Ngicabanga ukuthi ama developers nabanye abantu abezoza la phambili engathi ngathola more of lembuzo ayibuzile, because as eThekwini municipality we do leverage, but it's very limited leveraging yakhona, because we can only use a problem with the government. There are things that I can't say kahle. But a problem, no, not because there's a problem with government, but there is a, if I respond, the problem is not with government. The problem is abantu aba own ama means of product, aba owner ama imali. Because ngiwasusho nento abangayithandi. Inkingi la, uma ngine site eMhlanga, ngi-investor, Sanlam, ngine site eMhlanga ngiyakha. Uma ngiyakha planning, ngifuna bengi-approve ama plans. I'm not expecting planning to tell me anything. They must approve my plan. This is the plan. I'm submitting my plan. This is my piece of land. Submitting the plans. If the plans they meet the criteria, then finally bang approve the plan yam. Bang ngibekele imbande loba akona umhlaba wabo bona bang approve I plan. Okay? Where last kwazi ungena khona kahle la sifaka khona imali yethu. Ngoba khona la ufika khona uSanlam uzowakha bese sifaka ibulk infrastructure. Siyakwazi ke leyo ukuyifaka nama conditions. Ukuthi abantu abama locals or black economic empowerment, all the zonke izinto edingakalayo ihambisana ne black economic empowerment sakwazi ukuyifaka. Ngoba sifaka imali abakhokhi bentela nathi ngokwe infrastructure. So kuma project anjengalawo leyo nto leyo seyenza and yenzeke. Kodwa iningi lama projects ungathatha iDurban North yonke nje le uMhlanga Ridge lo wakhiwa. Anjobusho noma semule wana baba approve ama plans. But there is not much that you can tell a private investor. We tried. I personally tried in one of the projects impose for 30%. Ngaze ngamisa ama applications. Kwadlula about 3 months ngathola incwadi evela kubameli eyithi iqondiswe kumina ukuthi uzoyeka nini lento yenzayo evela kubameli babo. Sicela ukuthi advise base sifuna uqala ukusebenza sitsheleke nezimali. Le program yakho othi empowerment uzostedana nesiqhubeka nezinhlelo zethu thina. So amangiya kubameli bamasipala ngithi mina no. Nayi letter and the council yone efuna ukuthi empowerish abantu siphassengisha police. Kwathiwa yeah, but fanele ubaphendule umbuzo wabo uhle uthi uzoyiyeka nini lento yenzayo. So angithi ummeli ubathwa ngangisa kwi council mhlawumbe ama council ayizothi hayi as long as bengakwenzi lokho esikufunayo ngeke manje ummeli ubuka umthetho. Ngithi mina no up until baze ba comply nendlela esifisa ngayo. Athi these are private investments. You can't dictate to people. Uphula umthetho. Labantu bazokucharge manje. Bazofuna nje abethi uzoyeka nini bazokubela neinterest eyiloan abayenzile. Bayifuna kuwena personally ukuthi ikhokhe. So they are talking tens of millions. And then kwathiwa no asikusiza sibabhale nje ngokusheshsha ukuthi ucabanga ukuthi ngedate ethile lento eqalizo usuyiqedile uyaqhubeka. So sababhalela kwaqhutshekwa as normal. So mase ngibuza ukuthi fanele senze njani kwathiwa asemkhandlweni kwi council siyophasisa imithetho ethile. Kwacaca ukuthi before siqhubeke saya kwi-senior council Tembe ebheka imithetho i-constitution nama-bylaws ethu yonke into yathi don't even go there. Lana bazonithatha abantu se-constitutional court nibe embarrassed. Yabo. All that you can do ukuthi mhlawumbe umuntu umefuna ukwehliselwa ama-rates or ama-levies athize, then you put in, because seqala ukuthatha imali yabakho kubentela, then you put in your demands nani kubona back. But entweni e-private you cannot do it, right? So the point that I'm trying to drive at, one, we do have a policy yokuthi emalokishini makudevelopwa la sifaka khona infrastructure yethu, we are able to ukuthi sikhulume nabo bakwazi ukulokhuza, bakwazi ukulekelela abantu bendawo. Two, ipolicy yethu iyakuveza futhi ukuthi ngalesi sikhathi bezofuna mhlawumbe ama reductions ezintweni ezithize fasiyifake leyo nto yokuthi fanele bafaka abantu abalocal. Three, nabo ke ngoba vele bawosa amabhizinisi basibona isimo, akulula ukuthi ungavele uyenanda nje lapha emjebheni uthi uyokwakha. Yabo, ama-forum nje bekhona ayakumisa kwezesikhathi beyifunela ngendlela yabo bona bengalandeli umthetho, ugcina usuyenza lento. So abaningi babo sebeyakwazi ukwenza, kodwa i-homework esiyithathayo mhlambe la yokuthi we need to go back and revisit ukuthi what can we do so that we do more than, so that we can achieve more than what we are achieving now. I think that is very, very important. Ukuthi mhlambe ngoba inhloso summit vele le ukuthi sithole new ideas, izinto kufanele siphinde soyibheka okwesibili. Kodwa uthola ungabi yabo mase beqonda wena ngqo bethi ya uzodedela nini.
Thank you, DCM. I think we have come to an end of this session. I would like to thank my panelists for their participation, and then I will hand over to Usbusiso Makatini, who will take the second session on investors. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thanks. That is it.
Paul? Yeah, he's here. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Ngicela ukubingelela inkosi yamaqadi nabasendlunkulu, ngibingelele umphakathi, ngibingelela imeya. Ladies and gentlemen and our esteemed business people, good afternoon. This is the third and the final plenary session. We'll try our best to make it short and sweet, because we're working with business people who understand that business costs money. Please welcome on the stage our participants. Thank you. Yes, and I'll make it as short as sweet. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. 7.
Frank created the port.
Yes. So, to business and structured business. Oh, yes, we can. No, you can sit here. And the gentleman will sit here. Bob. Space on the side too. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for attending this session. at Octavia Boutique Hotel. What is more critical to us as the city of eThekwini is we want to promote investment promotion into the township and the rural areas. When we say investment promotion, we mean all kind of investments. Remember, demand drives investment. Investments is based on the demand and supply principle. When you look around at in the community of this area, you can see that there is a lot of demand that has been driven by the settlement around here. In South Africa, we've got a special apartheid system that tended to put more development and concentrate development in urban areas versus our rural areas. And our townships, as they were called locations, they were not identified as suburbs, as areas hospitable for human development and human settlement. They were defined as temporal structural areas for laborers to supply manufacturers, mining, and cities. But over time, with development, with natural progression, then people have developed to realize that no, this location can be a suburb, can be an integrated development. Then that's why we start seeing schools, private clinics, private hospitals. So this is what the city of eThekwini is about. How can we drive these investments into our rural areas, into our township? We've got quite a number of townships here, big townships, and we've got expansive rural areas. If our city is 68% rural, now eThekwini mozokhuluma ngentuthuko ungakhulumi ngomphakathi ohlala emakhaya nasemalokishini awukhulumi ngentuthuko, because that is where the multitude of our society is. So today we've got an opportunity for our investors to come and express to you their hopes, desires, their frustrations, and solutions on investing in rural and township areas. And how can we as key stakeholders, all of us as we are here, we are key stakeholders to that development. How can we as key stakeholders partake and participate actively on this? So I will give my investors, and on my left, I've got a business, what we call structured business partnerships. I've got Ubaba Madlogovu from NAVCOC, who represent NAVCOC inhlangano esindala ikhona ebukelele somabhizinisi abancane emakhaya nasemalokishini. Then next to him, I've got Ubaba Moses Tembe with Growth Coalition, okuyi partnership ehlanganisa ebuka i-development, ebuka ama-investors coming together and singing the hymn of developing our township and our rural areas, and he is a businessman in his own right. On my left, I've got Ubabu Owen Ngumalo, AJ Property Holdings, izinkunzi lezi developer wona lomhlaba kodwa kuzochaza ngokuthi wenzani kuphi. And next to him I've got a gentleman, Mr. Frank Riordan, in company yakhe Strategic Properties, and he is one of the people who have dared to invest in our township and rural areas where the norm with the big investors is perceived as high risk. So now that is why we brought them here, so that they can tell us what do we as key stakeholders need to abide by, and how can we create an enabling environment for this investment to happen. So without further ado, I will start with Ubaba Moses Tembe, with KZN Growth Coalition, ukuthi asitshele ukuthi uyibuka kanjani intuthuko in township and rural. Ucabanga ukuthi kuphi thina mphakathi ofanele sikwazi ukwenza to to create an environment eyenza ukuthi le ntuthuko is ebese esi-add lokhu kade kusho ubaba uMadlokovu Paul Ngema ebuza ukuthi istake esithola abantu bakithi in this investment, how can we make sure ukuthi we make the pie a little bit bigger than it is? Thank you.
Ngiyabonga mfowethu. Ngicela ukubingelela wonke umuntu okhona lapha endlini. Seniyongixolela ke angisezi ukunibala ngesigaba zenu kodwa nonke akuve nibalulekile. Uma ngaqala ke la ngingafika lapha isikhathi esiphelile. Ngiyocela ningixolele kakhulu ngoba ngizobeka nje kafushane kepha bese ngihamba ngoba isikhathi sesingilimaze kakhulu. Empeleni ngibone uPhilip ephuma la njengoba bephuma nomeya siya emhlanganweni owodwa. Inkulumo yami la ngiyibhale ngesilungu kepha ngaye ngawutolika enkantolo. Ngizozama ukuthi ngibuke la bese ngizama ukukhuluma ngesizulu ngoba akubaleke kabi ukuthi lokho engizokusho ngikubeke nje ngesizulu kuze kucace njengezinqazesele. Ngikhuluma isizulu. Ngicela ukuqala ke ngokuthi nje ngiphendule kancane lapha kwi growth fund stroke growth coalition. Ngibonile lapha kuma programs ukuthi kubhalwe ukuthi ngimele I growth fund. Kunomehluko omkhulu kabi phakathi kwe growth fund ne growth coalition. Abantu bebengijaha la befuna imali angiyiphethe imali mina. I growth coalition inhlangano nje very informal. It's not a statutory body. Phakathi ka government kanye no somashishini ukubheka ukuthi singa lithuthukisa kanjani leli kwaZulu naseThekwini. Ngicela ukuphinde ke ngidlule kulokho kubekwe uzakwethu la upresident weNAFCOC uma ekhuluma ngebig business ubheka ngakumina. Ngimele osomashishini nje bonke Paul angiyazi nithatha lento ukuthi ngimele big business. I'm still a capitalist with no capital. Siyazifanela nje nawe. Bese futhi ke ngidlule ngikhulume ngale ndaba le uPhilip bengazi uPhilip uyigwala kanjena. Lento eraiswe uPaul Ngema akuve ibalekile. I raised it 10 years ago. Ukuthi mongakwazi ukusebenzisa amandla akho angazi nongaphindwe uyisebenzise. Kuumthetho wonke umuntu uyazi ukuthi eSouth Africa black economic empowerment, it's been gazetted and so on. The first question is sitting ukuyibuza kubantu mabeletha ama applications of any sort. Abangawubuzi lo mbuzo makune cleaning services or security services uma kuze intweni ezinkulu bangawubuzi ukuthi EP triple BEE certificate of this company before bayithinte. If this war has to be taken to the Constitutional Court, so be it. Period. It's a P to Philip Akasekho la. Kuningi bethi ngizoqeda la ngikusho kuyena. Uma ngidlula ke isikhatha sekho ukuthi ngithinta izinto eziningi la. Kepha angikwazi ungacongratulate umnumzane uNala. Ngimazi mina semncane kakhulu bembiza ngoDalo. He has done very, very, very well. I think he deserves a big round of applause. Siboneke umnumzana uNala la. Mina I know for a fact ukuthi there is a lady who is holding that proverbial ladder unkosikazi wakhe simbona yena ekhuphuka phezulu, but really they've worked together as true partners. She's done very, very well. Angizange ngithole ithuba lokulalela ngizwe ukuthi oza kwethu batheni ngoba ngifike seku late. Niyongixolela ke bafowethu nodadewethu uma ngiphinda lokho bese kushiwo. We've been given a theme here, and niyibonile nonke that theme. I'm not going to repeat it, but within the context of that theme, I've come up with my own, and it's simple: wake up. Vugani. I don't believe we need to spend a lot of time here debating a business case as to why the city should prioritize investments in the townships and in the rural areas. If you look at the numbers and if you look at the demographics, most of our people stay in the rural and townships. So that the city, that the business should prioritize investment in these areas, that these areas should be prioritized as investment focus areas. We can't have a debate on that. And I don't believe that it's a matter for debate here. I think the biggest challenge facing us is why is it not happening? I think the reason we are here is really to debate that or to compare notes around the issues that impede economic prosperity of these areas, and most importantly, the development of the people. When the time allows, one day we will talk about development. The development can actually happen in these areas without necessarily developing the people of the area. The Malaysian people call them the indigenous people of the area. So whenever we are talking about economic development and prosperity, we must also talk about the development of the people. Maybe before we even get to the nuts and bolts of my short presentation, I just want to touch on what I think are critical success factors. I think the first point which must come to our minds is one of education. The basic education and technical skills in our communities are missing. I see that as a huge challenge. The issue of safety and security, I heard that Mayor spoke about that, and we see the country speaking about the issue of safety and security, but I look at what they are doing on the ground. We definitely are not doing enough to ensure that we make it not worth a while for people to commit these atrocious acts. The third issue, I think it's access to finance. I think this has been mentioned. And if we had time, I see one of the board members of Vitala. I still hold the view that Itala dropped the ball. I worked at Itala between 1983 and 1989. The amount of developments we're doing at the time and the blueprint which we put in place to ensure that these areas are developed, I feel pain all the time whenever I visit the townships and the rural areas. I'm happy we have in our midst here Mr. Malusi Mtuli. He is coming from F&B. I tell you, you are looking for money to develop the township. He might have answers for you. Mtuli, maybe you need to stand up so that they see you. So, yes, so don't come to me, go to Mr. Mtuli. I then also want to touch on a few soft issues, one or two, because we deal with hard issues when in fact some of the problems that face us are around the soft issues. I really think that there has to be a mindset shift among ourselves. You know, to make money, it's not easy. You know, to be a business person, I don't want to lie to you, it's just not easy. That you will see Mr. Shange there making a bit of money and say, I sebenzi lapha in business. You know, nangu dlamini laphana, nangu unala. Unala, unless you come to him and say, look, Itala has given me equity to invest into that business, he won't give you a percentage. He will just not. He cannot afford to do that because he wants a return. So that's not going to happen. But what we need to begin to understand is that the trip to making money, to prosperity, it really requires hard work. Amavila awalungi. The work ethic has to improve among ourselves. For us to succeed as well in these areas, I tell you, if we can't work together, and working together does not mean coming together to incorporate a company or form a consortium of sort. That is the beginning of it. But we definitely have got to get out of the mindset that there is something of a significance you could achieve alone. In fact, if you really want to run fast, as Royal Khoza said, you can go alone. But if you really want to go very far, you definitely have got to work with other people. And on that note, lento yomona, yomkhobolo, we must deal with it as abantu abamnyama. We don't want to see other black people succeeding. We see many business people here who are really trying their bit. Imoto zabo ziyantshontshwa, babanjwa inkunzi ey'tolo zabo. I know and we know that akufiki India, akufiki mlungu azokwenza lezo zinto, sizenza thina ngezandla zethu. We must address these issues. Mina ngiyongixolela, once you get over 60, i-diplomacy nje vele iphele. Ngizibeka nje bazinjalo lezi zinto. These are challenges facing us that need us as people in the townships and as people in the rural areas to say it cannot continue like this. It's not going to happen here. We must begin to address that. But going back to that very important issue of investments, there are people here who are going to be talking about big deals and so on and on and on, shopping centers and so on and on and on. Mina ngifuna nje uvele sikhulume nje ngalezi zinto ezincane. Mina I was a trader in the township and a developer in the township. I've been doing that for over 35 years. So ngiyaqualify ukukhuluma ngalento le. If you look at the economic sectors of the economy, you've got anything between 42 to 45, arguably. And my view is that you've got about 8 sectors of the economy that apply in the township and in the rural areas where you are not competing with anybody. The opportunity is entirely in your hands. And those opportunities are trading, agriculture, housing, transport, waste removal. Let me also add that waste removal without recycling, it's no industry. Obviously technology, obviously tourism, and industrialization, black industrialization, you can call it that if you wanted to. Those 7, 8, sectors of the economy, if you can't make it work in the rural and township setting, just pack and go. Awulazi business. I'll start with trading. And because of, in the interest of time, I will group trading and agriculture. Ngizoba simplistic kakhulu kabi kabi in talking about this. We must make the rural land productive ourselves. Uma uphuma la uye eMawoti, iNanda, abantu banawo umhlaba ukuthi bangahamba baye kwi council, but council by the Department of Agriculture, but sisize to establish hydroponic plants. A hydroponic plant indawo njengaga ungafit kushibi section yonke if done properly. Now, why is it important to ensure that these immediate areas are farmed and farmed productively and commercially? It can't be right ukuthi utamatis namazambane namaklabishi must travel 1,000 kilometers ukuzala kamashu. Thina nje, we can't do that. We must accept that there has to be something seriously wrong with us. Ukuthi nje ukutshala nje utamatis namazambane namaklabishi nombila. Now staff has to travel 1,000 kilometers ukuzala. If we can get the model right and ensure that we promote what I call the street markets, so that umanlima laphaya anthathi yonke lempahla travel 30-40 kilometers. You promote street markets as you see it in most parts of the world. You're not only getting organic stuff, you are getting very, very healthy vegetables and so on, all farmed in the area. I can tell you now, if you could do that right, you won't only have cheaper food and healthier food, delivered to the people, it will be less costly and it will be competitive because you can then sell your excess stock to other markets outside the township. That's a business ready for taking. It cannot be right that people who have contracts for feeding schemes funabawuthenga utamatisi English market. Konta wrong lapho. I'm saying at a fundamental level, we need to recognize that that is an abnormality, that these guys can't buy for school feeding, the bread that is manufactured, that has been baked by a local baker, and so on and on. We must get that right. Whilst on agriculture, bafuyile abantu inkomo, bafuyile abantu inkukhu, bafuyile abantu imbuzi. By the way, imbuzi is the healthiest meat and it's a delicacy. Enzima kabi kabi. Mufuna ndinyama healthy. Idla imbuzi. Awudingi nokuyithandazela, by the way, healthy nje. Healthy nje. Mawuyithandazela okunye lokho, but sengisho ukuthi nje as an industry, goat farming must be taken seriously. Now, inkukhu, inyama and so on, ayidingi inyama yenkukhu imnandi kabi le e-farmed la eNanda, ayidingi ukuthi zibhalwe u-rainbow or any other tag kuze uyizwe ukuthi cha inkukhu yazi yamnandi, ulamthuthu. So I'm saying these are businesses that are there for the taking. So we must make trading work. Why? I mean, you can supply schools, you can supply prisons, but don't go elsewhere to buy the stuff. Buy it right here. Whilst talking about trading, the local business people as well must form themselves into cooperatives. It's a cooperative because the like-minded people who have got various shops here have come together to form a cooperative. It's not a business person without a business. Akana tuck shop, akana luto, uthi nje ngi-cooperative. No. It must be focused to say, look, these are the business people eNanda who own these tuck shops, who own those old-time convenience center, to say, let's form a cooperative to start a cash and carry. So that as together, you could go to Coca-Cola, you could go to Union Flour Mills. Hopefully you'll do your own flour pretty soon here. Bulk buying, it's one thing that has actually displaced business people here, because ezinye izizwe ziyahamba ihlangane ziye Coca-Cola zithi sifuna lento ngemali engaka. Thina ngoba sicabanga ukuthi we can negotiate better deals, siyahamba siyeka macro, and then we can't compete on the ground. I-market liyaselokishini, i-market yakuma rural areas siyaliyeka nje i-business lizihambele. Housing, I tell you, if you go to Singapore, that economy was turned around on housing. If you read history, going back 40, 50 years, I tell you, we know the amount of investment that the city is putting into low-cost housing, affordable housing, and so on. Ama blocks. When we worked for Ital, I don't know how many people we funded who built blocks, Ezazaka. Most of the schemes, housing schemes that you see today, we definitely have got to go back to that. Plumbers, bricklayers, we can actually ensure that we reduce unemployment by a huge margin if we really use what we've got. So housing as an industry It must not be about going into the city council chambers to look for the house. It must be about how do we create an industry out of housing. Transport. I must say that this is one area where black people have done very, very well. The taxi guys are transporting 32 million people around the country every day, and they must be given a round of applause. They really have done very well there, and we're happy with that. Waste removal and recycling. Ngempela, udoti lo wasekhaya, abantu must be taught how to sort their waste besemakhaya, so that you really have recyclers who are not sitting in Clearwood or sitting in Phoenix or sitting anywhere. Abahlezi kwaMashu, abahlezi eNtuzuma, abahlezi eNanda. It's a massive, massive business. There is very little I could say about technology, because if you are really not putting or applying technology into your business, you won't go that far. But technology as a business as well has to be taken seriously. So is tourism, that tourism which won't go far if people don't know if they are safe to and from these areas of attraction. The industrialization, let's not look at manufacturing and the industry outside the township. It's crazy that, you know, uniform yasesikoleni la ekusa noma kuphi ekufuneka omama nabafowethu la bayoshaya iqueue ende in town, just uniform. These are abnormalities which we need to address, but in these abnormalities, I'm just trying to encourage you to say the opportunity is right in front of your nose. Let's capitalize on this and make the basics work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Babu Tembe. Thank you very much, most appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, let's, you know, this session is between the audience and lunch, so I would like to give my guests 5 minutes on the question that I will raise with them, so that we don't push lunch too far, because some of us are old and diabetic. We need to start tasting something. Thank you very much, Mr. Tembe. You raised some very critical questions, and communities and type of economies that we as communities can tap into without going to financial institution and look for massive funding. Mr. Frank Riordan, I'm coming to you, sir. I want to know what is your current investment and where is that investment? But on top of that, I want to know what is the vision of Strategic Properties in continuing to invest in our township and rural areas? And what do you wish we as the city, local government, provincial government, and ultimately national government should address to enable you as an investor to invest in these areas? Thank you.
Thank you, and it's great to be here. Just firstly, I think you've oversold me. I run a property advisory business, and yes, it does facilitate development, and some of it in rural areas, and we've done quite a lot over the years in your non-traditional property areas. And it's very interesting because I think what Moses said is true. You know, people always look to the property community to say, why are we not having development in these places? But it's actually not about the property. It's about the real economies that support those properties. It's about getting the small businesses, the micro businesses, and yes, there might even be big businesses and big retailers, getting those things to work, because there's no point in even thinking of building buildings because they're expensive. And unless there's a way to, that the real economy can actually support that infrastructure and that development, it's never going to work very well. I did make some notes, and some of them were based on some of the comments. Sorry, my Zulu is not so good. Just some of the things that have been raised, and I mean, it will touch on your question. But I've always been struck by the inability of the financial institutions to back black entrepreneurs. And I've had interesting situations in my life where, as a service provider to the development finance institutions, I've had 8 or 10 or 12 people from all over the big players, the Atalas, the NEF, all of them, they're all around one table. And I've always been quite frustrated because they always turn around and say, but Frank, at the end of the day, we're still a bank. They still are not able to creatively find ways to finance emerging entrepreneurs. So that for me is a very big challenge. I think it's a challenge for everybody, and I think it's one that can be fixed. But I think sometimes government and the private sector and the community at large, we're so busy concentrating on too many things, you sometimes need to stop and say, you know, let's try and fix one of these things. And the role of the financial institutions in the economy is certainly something that I think should be addressed. Yeah, we spoke about the fact that it's not a property play. It's really about the supporting economy. So if we are going to look, and I mean, I get asked this question all the time, and I work very closely with the city, and we've got a number of sectoral initiatives where we're saying, okay, how do we attract the call center industry into Bridge City, or into Chatsworth, or into wherever it is. And really it's about making those places attractive. So, yeah, because of our spatial history, it's very, very difficult. You know, it's property development it's a very competitive landscape, and people are chasing the best views, they're chasing the opportunities closer to the harbour, and they're chasing opportunities close to the stations and public transport. So to address those things, I mean, one really has to think very hard about what is it that we're going to do in these areas that's going to compete with the other areas from a real economy point of view, sustainable economy point of view, and from a property development point of view. Yeah, just, you know, on the issue of ownership, I also came into this thinking that we were going to be asked, you know, how do we get property development into these areas that haven't had a lot of development historically. But I think the bigger issue here, that from what I'm hearing, is around ownership and around empowerment. And it's not just about getting the bricks and mortar into the locations where people can access them. It's about how do those properties and those developments and those businesses impact in a meaningful way on people's lives. And I don't have the answer to that. It's a very difficult thing, and I think capitalism is incredibly flawed in many ways, as are all systems, because I think human beings are flawed. But property development, I think by its nature, has always been very concentrated. And that for me is a real challenge. You know, I don't think it's the perfect vehicle for empowering people. It's a completely imperfect empowerment vehicle. But still, again, it's something we've got to look at very closely and try and be creative in terms of how we move development forward.
Thank you very much, Frank. It's true. Property development is, I don't know, maybe in South Africa it's treated as a niche sector where only few big boys play around it, because it is a massive investment and a massive sector. To give you an idea, when we talk of commercial farmers or commercial farming, we're talking about the region of 480 billion in South Africa. And when we talk about commercial properties, that is your headquarters, offices, space, your malls, we're talking about 1.2 trillion. And the funny thing is, I don't know, in terms of black participation in that, the percentage, what, 0.002%. And I remember at some point, our former president, Thabo Mbeki, did ask the question to commercial banks. He said, why are you so risk averse when it comes to lending money to black businesses? And he never got a straight answer as to why. I don't know, how, but if I were him, at the time with the ANC having 2/3 majority, I could have done something. But unfortunately now, yeah, it's okay. So we're giving you a view, or a window view on the value of real estate. Now, because there is already an existing real estate, the question is, how can we develop that real estate and be active participant in our own communities? That is why we have this session. That is why we've got Township and Rural Investment Summit. For us, first, to dialogue, have a discussion as we are having it. Second, going to actions. Who needs to talk to who to get what? There is Mr. FNB. So that's a possible action after this conference. And then the third will be the deliverables. Once Mr. FNB says you must satisfy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conditions to access X funding for your X business, then that becomes the deliverables. Then you go and seek and make sure that you meet those demands, those actionables. So that is the dialogue, action, and deliverables that we want at the end to achieve from this discussion, from this session. Now I'm coming to you, Babu Mkajwa, or Zwide. Ngicela ke ukusithele fahla ukuthi uAJ Property Holdings, one, investment anayo ikuphi, wenzani? Two, okubaleke kunakho konke, wangena kanjani ukuthi nawe umuntu omnyama ube umtshali zibali, ngoba sonke lana amehla ngaphandle sifuna ukwazi ukuthi ufike kanjani lana. Siyabonga.
Program Director, to the Honorable Chiefs ekade khona uShinga no Babu Ngcobo, the Mayor and all dignitaries, I would say protocol observed. Ngiyanibingelela nonke. Ngiya understand ukuthi sesifike esikhathini esinzima, kunzima ukukhuluma abantu sebelambile, kodwa ngizozama ukuthi ngenze ukuthi ngiqoqe inkulumo ebemfishane. Seshilo ke umphathi ohlelo igama owenqumalo, i-company yethu i-AJ Property Holdings, si specialize kakhulu kuma development akwi retail. Retail means ama shopping centers, ama mall, kanye ke nama apartments okuba ama flat kodwa private. Kanjalo nezinto ezifana nazo lezihleli kuzo njengama hotela kanjena. Nginabo ke abalingani abayibala leli lendoda ehleli uDizwe kaMo Frank. Kungelula mphathi ohlelo ukuthi umuntu aqalele umsebenzi kuleli bale silona nje ubusushilo nje siyaxolisa Mr. Mthuli ngoba cishe wena usuyi center of attraction ngenxa yemali ukuthi sibuke sengathi ama processes aphethwe wena. Bekunzima ukungena mphathi ohlelo umnyama njengami Kodwa sazane nalamadoda la enye yawo naye eduze kukababa uMkhize, uMr Lawrence. Phakama Mr Lawrence bakubona. Can you just stand up and see? Albert ke Lawrence ngiba hlangane nabo lamadoda cishe ngo2016 saqala ukubambisana ngokusebenza. Bekungelula ke ukubambisana nabo ngoba ikhona leya element eshiwo umeya ye risk, kube khona ne-element enye yesibili yokwesaba nakubona ukuthi mhlambe lo muntu esimbiza nje isigebengu, bese ke kufuneka ke imali eyiningi ke zokungena ayitholakali ke, kufanele uyoncenga amabhenki uzame nokuyipenda penda bemhloshana yabo. Ukhuluma nesingisi khona lesideep sokuthi I am a business person, a reputable one and what. Polish impela. Munga polishanga akusheshi kungeneke. So ngazama ke ngenhlanhla lamadoda I must say I found something out of HA that they are transformed, they are accommodative, and they are also willing to work with our black people, if I could put it that way, in that they are accommodative and they are willing to negotiate and enter into discussions, more especially if you want to be part of us in the development and we have no means of doing so. We do sit down, look at how we model that, and if the model does fit in into the requirement of the bank, I must say, if the model does fit into the requirements of the bank or it satisfies the requirements of the bank, then we move on. Ukwenza kube lula nje ngingabuyele emuva lo mlando mfishane la eThekwini sinama project all over the country in all provinces, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Northwest, Mpumalanga siyasebenza. So ke la eKZN nakhona siyasebenza. Kodwa nje wasisebenza I must say enanda emJebheni sesiqalile ukusebenza senze shopping center lazo minus 140 million investment. Sinama partners amnyama. Ngicela uphakame baba uSibiya bakubone. Nangi baba uSibiya is one of them noma bengekho abanye. Is a local business person wendawo uyipartner yethu shareholder as well. With development yethu kune model esisebenzisile ukuthi sigcine sikwazi ukusebenzisana nabo nabanye partner abakhona. So we are proud ukusho ukuthi baba lingani bethu sisebenza nabo asicwasana. Siye entuzuma investment yakhona is almost 330 million. Nakhona sinabalingani bethu abamnyama njengami kukhona Mapro properties in company mnyama kube khona women in property abesifazana abakwe property baba lingani bethu konke lokho kusimple ukuthi sikwenze ngoba sibuka imodel sayifaka then bayibona ifavorable. Angikuchaze though ukuthi umuya ebank lapha koMelusi before baze babuka ukuthi ubani okhona bafuna ukubona ukuthi wena unayo imali. Ibank alivamisile ukukunikeza imali uma ungenayo imali. Lokho ngicabanga ukuthi wonke umuntu uyakwazi mufi ungenayo imali yofuna imali ebank ngeke lenze njani, fanele kube nayo ukuze lenze njani. So ke bochaza kabe imali siyezameka indlela ukuthi noma sithi singenawo senza amaphepha akhombisa ukuthi sinayo ukuze sinikezwe imali mphathohle. So kunendlela kunendlela amaphepha enziwa ngayo akwenza ukuthi ubonakala unemali. Sinenye shopping center sifuna ukuyakha eMaran Hill which is over 220. Sinenye sifuna ukuyakha eKingsbury which is also about 200 as well, 200 million. Kube khona enye esiplana njengamanje submit. Lawe ngikhuluma ngawe lawe so submitile kumasipala eRushbrook. Izoba nanezindlu ke yona. Kuye kube khona insizwa nje ithanda kabi leyo project. Asikhuluma singakakhulumi ngaleyo project kamasipala. Nayo is over 200 million. So in total investment yethu elana njengamanje sisubmit kamasipala is over 1 billion. Ehleli kamasipala including nalabo sesebenza njengamanje. Going forward sibuka nalawa amanye sifuna ukwenza sesiyawenza u3 billion. Uma sibuka ukuthi mezokwazi ukwenzeka within 4 to 5 years babukhabazela. So simisele kakhulu ukusebenzisana neTheku kuya phambili. Angikubekeke ukuthi zikhona ingqinamba Uyazazi ubaba umeya, uyazazi ubaba uSithole. Na ama-colleague wami laba esisebenza nabo bayazazi ingqinamba zokuqala ukuthola umhlaba la uzosebenza khona. I must say ukuthi i-access to land for development is a problem. Even to get the one nje senanda sithe sesitholile sesithengile sathola ukuthi kune-encroachment kunabantu abahleli khona. Ukubasusa ubabeke kwenye indawo fanele kukhokhe wena ubasusa endaweni yakho. And umasipala kuvela phakamise izandla athi asingeni lapho umhlaba wakho nabantu. There's another problem. Kube umhlaba nje kuba ngikhuluma ngentuzuma nje sifuna ukwakha kunedepo nakhona umasipala uthi kusincinza kancane ekuceleni esizokhokha ukuthi uthole leyo umhlaba lo ukuthi uhambe uyokwakha lapho. Bese kuba i-issue ke engifisa ukuyiveza evamise ukwenzeka engifisa ukuthi sibuke ukuthi imphatho ohlelo iyasiza futhi ibalekile ukuthi siyenze. Uma sizosebenza emphakathini kukhona ama sectors awu2 ayingqinamba kodwa kuyasebenzisenaka nawo. One, public transport, which is a taxi association. Uma singaba accommodateanga kwi planning yethu bayengenela nje bona bafike bapaka imoto futhi ayikho into sokuzoyenza. So kufanele senze short masiyosebenza suke singenayo imali siyoyicela kumasipala uthi naye akanayo fanele sizame yethu imali sakhele bona ukuze sisebenzisane nabo. Enye inkinga ezikhona ngikhuluma kabi ke wabukhabazela abaphatha abakhulu abasekho ngoba iyabadinga lena. Kudlule lapho kube ile ngcenye ukuthi kunabafowethu abasema eindaweni zasemakhaya eindaweni zasemalokishini othi muyosebenza qala babe i-business forum alisekho lelo gama ngabe nisasebenzisa bathi sebe i-business chamber. They are now well organized. Ngicela sibaphe izandla ezinkulu kulokho. They are well organized. Business chamber, yes. So mawufika manje uhlangana ne-business chamber ama-negotiations are better than they were before. So nabo kumele sibe nendlela ukuthi yiphi indlela esisebenzisana ngayo ikakhulukazi because this is private money. Because it's private money, we need to account properly. The issue of supplying of material is a challenge ukuthi ayitholakali elokishini ayitholakali emakhaya. The issue of plant hire ayitholakali elokishini ayitholakali emakhaya. Bona baze bazolwa nje sebanga udaka ke lolu babanga udaka kodwa imali sebeyishiyile. Nomuntu uyakhuza ukuthi ayisekho imali lani bangakhona. Uthola ukuthi ayisekho indlela kumele siba accommodate. So angisho ukuthi that is another challenge ebesingacela ukuthi umasipala kanye neingonya ama trust masuke sithi ne development or investment esilethayo kube khona indlela abahlangabeza ngayo kuleyo ngxenye including ama DFIs ama development funding institutions ka government obono KZN growth fund or SIFA obanibani. If it's possible mphatho ohlelo ibe khona indlela yokuthi bayakwazi ukuyenza ifunding ibe available for ukuthi masihlangana nezinto enjalo sibafande ukuze babe ingxenye yokusebenzisana kwethu. One, bathenga equity. Two, bakwazi ukuthenga ownership. Ngoba bagcina bebangalokho abakubangayo badle bahamba basekho egcineni sesisele sodwa futhi. So leyo model leyo isahlupha ngoba nathi asikwazi ukuyimodela ngokuphelele ngoba kufanele vele phela umuntu ozongena ebhizinisini akangene walker nje. Uwalker ngento ethile uma ezongena ebhizinisini. Ibhizinisi likufuna ukulibuka ngamehlo kuphela ngathi ungafaka into ethile ulibuke ngayo ukuze libonakale. Angikwazi ukuyichaza kakhulu ukuthi yini leyo. Okugcina ke ikakhulukazi kamasipala which I would say is a major challenge is a bottleneck of approvals to get into the actual development. It will actually take you more than a year or even 2 years. Not because the development place is not there, it is there. One, ama-studies afunakalayo. Ngijabulile nje mangizwa ukuthi uthi yasezobalula manje u10 ngabe nisawenza 14 months kaze. Akube nje u3 months, 2 months o-EIA bapass. I was so thrilled ngitape. I recorded leyo nkulumo because kube ama-approvals of ama-plans. They make it very difficult. They don't pay for plans. We pay for plans. But for them to approve our plans, it takes more than a year. Bekutshela ukuthi le cap le is not suitable for le ndawo and therefore a plan fail for a cap and it gets referred and it delays. Further to that, usuqalileke manje uthi uyozama ukwakha. There are services angekho, like your water infrastructure is not there, your sewer, your storm water management system. And yonke lento ngeyona yakho bese kuthiwa yima kungaqala usebenze because azikho lezi uma zingekho you can't work. Isikhona indawo kusebenza. So I would say development is there, investment is available to invest, but the bottlenecks are there to block anything that we are thinking of doing in terms of investment. Therefore, our problem is not for investing, our problem is how the government or the municipality. I'm happy nje mphatho hlelo ngoba umasipala ukuthi kufanele ngabe before usibuze ukuthi singenze njani uku-investor, you would have provided a platform ukuthi lezi zinto lezi wena kuzokwenze njani ukuthi tomorrow nje I'll be submitting plans. Will they be approved within 3 months? The answer will be yes. Oh yes, thank you. Siyabonga.
Thank you. I work for the city. If the mayor says these plans must be approved in 3 months, I cannot say any other month except 3 months. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Owen. To me, it's a vote of confidence that as much as we've got challenges, investors are facing some challenges, but there's a vote of confidence. If you've got an investor who's committed to invest in the region of 3 billion in the next 5 years, please give them a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. So, ubaba umkhachwa ke ushilo ukuthi kuyangeneka. Kufuneka kube nendlela ukuthi kuxoxiswane. Wasezisho ke ingqinamba. Wasezisho futhi nezinto bona nje njengo AJ Property Holdings ama challenges ababa nawo ukuthi uma ngabe insizwa zethu lezi eziku business chamber zifika lapha ngihlale ngikusho lokho ukuthi kuhlale kuyinkinga ukuthi sibanga udaka njengoba esho uma ethi ukubanga udaka amanye amazi bafuna bona umsebenzi ngesikhathi kwakhiwo ivision yokuthi cha bobo lo msebenzi umile la uzoqhubeka kuzowakhiwa kuphela ukwakha ioperation iqhubeka uthi uyafisa ukuthi umasipala benohlelo lokuthi uma ngaba ama business chambers efika kubona umasipala benohlelo njengoba umeyeke wakhuluma nge-Enterprise Development Fund. Ilokho nathi sikubuya somasipala ukuthi naloko uhlelo liqhamukayo uma ngabe ama business chambers efika ku-AJ Properties ethi cha nathi sifuna ukuba nestake la uzothi AJ Properties go and get funding, we can give you an equity of an X. Then they can come back to the city and say, we are your bona fide citizens. We want to be part and parcel of this development. That is what we're calling active economic participation. Can you then back us? Is either you fund us or you provide, that fund becomes a guarantee for us to go to a commercial bank. There is Mr. FNB for now. Yes. So if they come with such a backing, yes, I think that backing becomes what we call a negotiable instrument. So at least when you live here, you will know that there is a way of getting into these types of investments. To me, it means my work today was done because this is your take home. So thank you very much, Mr. Owen. I would like to pass this opportunity to Ubaba Umadlogovu. Ubaba Umadlogovu uphethe uNAFCOC. Inhlangano esineminyaka ikhona. Umbuzo wami baba uthi uNAFCOC ushintsha kanjani ukulandela ikhathi ezishintshayo? How is NAFCOC transforming due to transformation time? Today's age, we're looking at business support for women, people living with disability, and for youth. How is NAFCOC, in its vision and objectives, is moving in that direction? One, to make sure that youth businesses become a success. Youth business get advices and training that can ensure that they can talk to financial institutions to get funding. Thank you.
ngiyabonga Qapash bawethu ngiyazi uthi anisenandliziyo zokulalela abantu bekhuluma. Sanibonani. All protocol observed. I always hate to be the last one to speak. Useshilo ubaba uMakhathini ukuthi igama lami nguPaul Kwangema, I'm coming from Navcock. For the sake of the youth, because I can see there are many young beautiful faces here, young ones. Navcock stands for the National African Federated Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I know the young people, they only know Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We are a national chamber. We have footprints in all the provinces of South Africa. We're here in coming back closer home, we have footprints in all the districts, 11 districts of KwaZulu-Natal. So ours to answer to the question from the Ubabu Kapashe, Tina owethu Tina we are not investors. Asinayo imali ungeze thina uthi kwakhuluma ubaba ungema laphana nama investors. No. I know this man. I've been ubaba Nxumalo. I've interfaced with him. Tina, ours is to be the leading voice of business in South Africa. Our mission is very simple: to develop and promote inclusive economic growth among existing and new businesses as a champion of the decolonization of the economy within the country's democratic revolution. In other words, we as the chamber, we want people, like-minded people, business people to unite. Right? In other words, Tina, we mobilize entrepreneurship to work together for the common good of the nation. So I'll cite few examples. Patrice Motsepe was our president. So Patrice Motsepe, he served for 2 years, and then we created an opportunity. That's where he is now. I can cite so many of them: Dr. Motswenyana, Dr. Mamponya, Babu Mhlungu lapha KZN. All people who have served their time in Navcock, they are wealthy, they are doing well. Babu Moses Tembe, Babu Temba Ngoba Ngitabo. In other words, we mobilize people, so we create environment for all the entrepreneurs to succeed. So what I'm not going to tell you now about what is the township economy. We all know what's the township economy about. Kuma townships, Kulema township, no man rural area. I've tested both lives. I grew up in a rural area and Kamgesho Mina, Kota Nglale Mlazi, Ngahlala KwaMashu, Ngahlale Lamonville, and we all know what is township. I don't want to theorize and talk about what's town. The most important thing, which, right, Tina, how do we assist? We don't assist by funding anyone, but however, we create an environment for businesses to succeed. We do have, as a chamber, we do have what we call an investment wing, because we thought that, as black people, we are on our own. If you are on our own, you must think, how do you assist your members? So we created an investment wing so that whoever is our member can benefit. That's why we own part, the building where Pan-African Parliament, Pan-African Parliament, that building is owned by us, it's ours. In other words, uhulumeni uqashe kuthini uhulumeni lelo bhilidi. Alinaskweneta sinaluto salithenga 230 million. So uhulumeni uyasikhokhela njalo, angithi about right fine. Right, ngamemazwi siyaqhubeka. Siqhubeke ngamemazwi sinama chambers. We've got a women chamber, we've got a youth chamber. Lapha eHammersdale, we have just acquired what we call a textile factory, Galvano. I think Galvano is one of the leading textile factory in Hammersdale. Well, we are owning that one, we have bought that one now, because why we believe that government must because the government mission is to promote localization. So it's the time now that the government invest in textile industry. Njoba nibahle nilapha nje endlini sonke njoba sigqoke ini fabric. So we want to manufacture fabric. Moses Tembe, ubaba Moses Tembe ukhulume ngokuthi why siye kwa jam so bamba line lapha ku Pine Street. Angithi we should be doing that thing because abantu abagqoka ini lawo ma uniforms akusibona labantu abasidayisela lapha kwa jam. Yini inina zingane zenu kodwa mase kuvula igoli njalo lapha kwa jam. So we thought ukuthi i-government must invest in textile. Kodwa thina ngendlela esiyenza ngayo ke siyenza kanjena. Sifuna ukuthi lento kuthiwa iyani e-importwa kuphi khona e-Asia. Sifuna ukuthi singabe sa-importa ngithi abona siyenze sizoyitshala thina lapha ngama sifuna ukwenza lento kuthiwa i-downstream ukuthi kubenefite ama-farmers etshala ukotini angithi abona etshale ne-hemp kade khuluma nge-hemp neyazi hemp which is part of i-cannabis is betshali hemp out of i-hemp uma une-hemp nje sokunika uma une-area enkulu unendawo enkulu sokunika i-offtake with whatever you have cotton you'll sell to us because we have the factory a manufacturing factory in Hammersdale. We have it as NAVCO. So we are busy doing what we call diversification because as fun with local stella in Siagbanta Bana imali and to join any organization you must pay membership. Abantu they don't have money, isemo somnota siko, sasitino, assist the tina, all our members, we contribute, we bring together money, and it as finance ama bank, right? Ngoba sibaningi angithi abona senzeni bese sithenga in senzeni to create diversification. UNAVCO ku sectoral baba. UNAVCO because NAVCO is sectoral angithi abona construction, there's a construction sector, agriculture, tourism, all the sectors are represented by NAVCO because we believe that NAVCO is not about now uti fantu bene pole store, bene pusher, the supermarket. When it started in 1964, our forebears, our forefathers, they started this chamber. It was out of a protestation, uguti, they were excluded from the mainstream economy through a Job Reservation Act. Kulaba bancane bangazilutho. Basebethi-ke asiqaleke ini AAT chamber. But that chamber has still grown now. It is sectoral. Uma ukuthi sijoina thina siyabuza ukuthi yiphi ke nokuyiphi wena umkhakha kweze economy, tourism, ukuphi bese uyajoina ke. Right? All right, we are saying, black people, let us work together. We are on our own. Yeah, and that's my advice to you. We are on our own. Ngiyathanda into enzo ubaba uNqumalo. Mina ke I've got a passion ngeproperty. Mina umthetho wami. I'm saying thina abantu abamnyama uma namanje nasingabona ukuthi asina umhlaba, we don't own property, we don't have wealth. Usingaba noma nani, if we don't have wealth, you don't have property, you don't have land, you don't have wealth. Oshuthi nje angithi abona usebenzele ezinye izizwe. So I'm encouraging you ukuthi let us work together and build our economy by acquiring property especially in townships. And also join hands, especially because we property ngoba property capital intensive kakhulu. Ifuna abantu abaningi njoba nizwile ubaba uNqumalo utheni. Ubaba uNqumalo ukhuluma ngokuthi bayi group akusena yedwa. Sisodwa sing-handed we will never beat any nation. Sengiphetha finally baba because in the interest of time. Sengiphetha nje. What I've discovered about us as black people, asifuni thina ukusebenza sihlangane lo muntu ufuna uyisebenzela yena. Asifuni ngibona konke ngifuna ukucompare phakathi kwama-Muslims nama-Christians. Ama-Muslims uma usukhuluma ngoMahomet ngiyokutshela ungavuka iSouth Africa ishe yonke. Kodwa ama-Christians uma ungakhuluma kabi no Jesu angithi yabona kuyifanele it's just business as usual. Thina ke we are Christians thina angithi as one when it comes to asihlangene thina abantu abamnyama. So I'm encouraging all these beautiful faces here ukuthi you are all coming khona besiqhamuka khona. Lapho qhamuka khona we are doing something. Think what is that you can do it with your colleague, with the man sitting next to me. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. What I will do is I will make a ruling, a very despotic ruling, to say when we were as RSVP, there are two ladies that you had an access to them. And I would love you, ladies and gentlemen, to use those for questions that they will come directly to me. Then I will then redirect all those questions to right respondents. Please, in the interest of time. But before I leave the stage, I will ask our Mr. FNB just to give you the contact details, and then we will mostly welcome Mr. Nkululeko Kize to do us a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Sibonge Makatsini, ngizocela nje ungiphe imizuzu ngithi ayibe emihlanu because I think I have a right of reply. I think there's been a lot of focus on our commercial banks, and there's obviously, I think, not so much to reply, but also to add value to the conversation. I think it was actually quite important that you all meet here. Yes, Mayor earlier ubeke iphuzu lokuthi when you see a black person coming to the bank, you're seeing risk, and Frank also added to the fact that when you're actually coming to the bank as a business person, a black business person, it's actually 10 times more difficult for you to actually get money. And I probably can't disagree with that. And I think it's got to do with the slow change, I think, within the commercial banking space. I can probably count people in one hand who are, my pigmentation and key decision-making, places within the commercial property finance space specifically. So I think our bank has been around for 200 years, FNB. Kuyaqala ukuthi kube nomuntu ompisholo kulesikhundla esokuphatha commercial property finance eKZN. Qala ngqa. Ningaqani ngishayela izandla ngoba ngakasebenzi. Ngiqalele umsebenzi last year. Kuzofanele ngishayela izandla uma ngabe senihambe nathola ukuthi hayi lento insizwa kaMthuli iyakwazi ukuyikhipha imali inikeza abantu. Angithi yabona ngonyaka nje ngisuke ngingasebenzanga uma ngingakwazanga ukubolekisa ngemali engango-4 billion to i-commercial property finance. Naw imali eningi leyo. Okungiphatha kabuhlungu kakhulu ukuthi kulo 4 billion lo bancane kakhulu abantu abamnyama abathola abahlephulayo la. So kufanele sikushintshe lokho. Khona amaqhaza ahlukahlukene kufanele ukuthi adlalwe yiwo wonke abantu abakhona. Ubaba la ubekile uMadlokovu ukuthi i-business iqala kwi-property. Angithi uma une-property urun i-business lakho liwe kodwa usanayo i-property. Kadayisa ingubo kusasa udayisa ama-orange. Uma ngabe liwa lela ama-orange udayisa imoto angithi. So nethuba lokuqala kabusha. So i-property is very key to the success of a business. Rural property, umasibheka nje lama COVID years, actually outperformed wonke ama sectors. Actually outperformed the urban property sector. So, which is all the more reason why we should actually be investing in rural setting as well as a township. But nansi inkinga esekutheni i-property isezandleni zobani. Sikhuluma nge-equity. I-property into esekuba inkinga kakhulu is ukuthi it requires a lot of equity upfront in order to unlock. You mentioned Sisi earlier ukuthi you're running a business but you can't actually get property, and even when you actually have property given by Nkosi, how do you then regularize that property in order for it to convert to equity? Let us say you've got a hectare of land allocated to you by a chief. Go to petty PTO noma petty paper. Alkwazi lo mhlaba lo ukuthi uzoba i-land equity onto any further development or enhancement of the property until such time regularized a ownership structure. Now, how do you regularize the ownership structure? You have to actually have an F, you have to have a title deed, or you must have a leasehold. Now, on tribal land, a leasehold is actually a way to go. Yes. PTO is not fundable, unfortunately. Well, it is fundable at times, but it's difficult to actually fund PTO. South Africa, if you've got a leasehold And especially if it's longer than 20 years, it is as good as owning that property outright. So now the moment you have that, then that is your equity. So that hectare, if it's worth 10 million rands, then you actually have 10 million rands now. Osungene bank uthi lalelani la ngino 10 million rand. Ngifuna ukwenza development ya 20 million rand. So nina nizokwazi ukunginikeza ngoba nayi security nginayo angithi uyabona leyo. But umasipala besakhona nje ama colleagues ethu abuya kumasipala have got a big role to play in also enabling the environment ukuthi abantu abamnyama in the townships actually are able to release the equity. Lebasiza ukuthi ba invest in commercial property space. Right now ushilo bhuti ukuthi it's 1.2 trillion. Kulo 1.2 trillion ay so besenze kakhulu mangabe mhlambe sine trillion sino 100 sino mhlambe sino 2 billion. Iyona into enking. So umasipala has a role to help create rails for that property to be regularized. Uma ubheke emalokishini ama room abantu bakithi bawakhile, they're generating massive cash flow. Why are our people not able to extract equity from there by invest onto other properties now that they actually have invested in an entity? La sila ubabunala nje uinvest imali enkulu kabi la. I'll probably guess easily ukuthi you're looking at 30 to 50 million la. Kodwa without that leasehold akakwazi babunala ukuthi ngale property athi uzoboleka 10 million. Law's the 10 million. Now let us help our people who've invested in our areas to be able to unlock this equity that you need to actually find other opportunities. Ngoba ubabunala manje uma ekwazi ukuthola lo 10 million useyakwazi uyovula ini iOctavia 2. Ayakhi Octavia 2 izala amaqanda akwazi nakhona futhi ukuthi akhiphe omunye 20 million ayo investa ku Octavia 3. Ungagcini uma ngabe unama flats ama room ugcine nje ubambe lawo ama room lawo ambala. Ngizophetha ngehlalo ngoba ngiyazi ngisibolekile lento isikhathi sakho. So ngizonikeza nje inamba yami uma nje sengilento sengivala. Igama ngoMalusi ngwakamthuli. Inamba yami 083 664 Oh. Malusi Mthuli, uyafana noLthulu Madlandona. Inamba yami 083 664 5084. Iyona kuphela inamba engisebenzisayo le. So ngaleyo ndlela kwesinye isikhathi uzothi uyafona uthola ukuthi ngise meetingini kodwa ungafaka iWhatsApp ngiyabuyela kuyona nakanjani. I-email ithi malusi malusi.mthuli@fnb.coza malusi@fnb.coza. So uma nje singcweka nje ngamagama, I'm very much open. I've got all the time for black business people, prospecting black property investors, specifically to commercial property. I have so much appetite to actually fund residential development schemes, especially if you develop and hold and not sell, where you actually generate a rental stock. Do you know ukuthi like KZN alikho nelilodwa ilokishi eline-sectional title scheme? Ama-flat. Bangakho abantu abasuka eMlazi abasebenza eGoli befuna ukuthi bebebuya bazohlala elentweni eMlazi umuntu abe na 2-bedroom wakhe azofika nomndeni wakhe ngoba ngeke asahamba ayohlala lapha ekhaya kulowa 4-room. Kade ngikhuluma noNtembe lento eli. Opportunity la. Sectional title. Akhona ama-room. But now when you don't have sectional title, you don't create that opportunity for people to actually buy, you know, a small unit. Uhlalele eGoli kumention yakhe kodwa bebuya uzala. But then we need umasipala to come on board, regularize those markets. Uma ngabe ngakhe ama-room awu-20 on a 400 square meter site, ayingabi illegal ilento yami. Let us create rails and create some zones where you have blanket zoning so that people can actually thrive. Because already, umuya emalokishini abantu bazakhile indawo. Why do we have restrictions? It's enough ukuthi black people were restricted to a small piece of land. Now that they're actually enhancing that and generating money, why are we limiting them in terms of commercializing and actually making money out of that? Ngiyabonga Makathini, sorry kuthatha isikhathi.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I will hand it over to Ukabazel.
Thank you so much, Tlapashe, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm so I know a lot of people saw that on the agenda it's written Mr. Mpilo Mkhize. And now you're seeing Kulego Mkhize on the stage. And the people are a bit confused that Mr. Mpilo Mkhize is slightly taller and slightly darker. So why is this fellow in front of you? Let me first apologize on Councillor Mpilo Mkhize. He had to rush to a metro caucus that is happening, that's due to start at 3 o'clock. So as a result, he is unable to actually come and thank you. So on his behalf, ladies and gentlemen, let me just thank you all for coming to this meeting. I'm realizing that there are two HODs sitting here. I think the DCM just saw me and said, you do the vote of thanks, and I had to rush off to another meeting. So I'm gonna try my best to provide this closing remarks. I think, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very good interaction, and the fact that it's now happening every year, it's also allowing us as government to start sharpening our pencil and learning from these processes. There's been quite a bit of advice, particularly around how we transform our planning processes, as being highlighted by the last speaker, how we release land for development, both in terms of government land and tribal land, as well as becoming more investor-friendly and getting the basic rights in terms of precinct management, in terms of managing our spaces. I think it's a very important. It's been a set of very important lessons. And in 12 months' time, when we meet again at another location, I think the last time we were in Umlazi, we're in the north this time. Hopefully, next time we'll go out to the west. We'll be able to carry forth the lessons that we've taken and be able to take stock on what we will be what we'll be doing in the next 12 months to really help the development of townships, the development of rural areas, because that is really how we're going to truly transform our economy. And it's getting the small things right. It's been let me also then in closing thank all the speakers that spoke in the morning session, in the morning sections, both from government as well as the investors and experts that spoke, that made their input. I think particularly the input that came from Mr. Dembe and the outlining of the importance of the various sectors that can quickly be invested in by the people, by the local people. I think for us, what it does for us as government, it tells us that those are the areas that where we need to be supporting you on or around those particular sectors, particularly the issues of waste management and recycling. We have programs in those sectors, and we really want to offer our assistance, particularly as economic development cluster, to be able to say in the next 12 months, we will do everything in our power to ensure that we support you in those sectors, so that in 12 months' time, when we meet again, we can give a report back to say who has been successful, who has not been successful, and how have we supported you. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending this year's summit. Thank you.
Lunch is in the restaurant.
Lunch is in the